Germany of Iron and Blood. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Churchill means, Your Excellency, gentlemen, the strength of the Royal Navy is still the #1 in the world. This is beyond doubt. However, it is hard to say whether it will be able to retain the #1 in the future. From the information we have obtained, German people are also frantically building warships. The gap between them and us is constantly narrowing. If we don't speed up, we will even be overtaken by the Germans one day, Churchill said. Your Excellency Churchill, your words are too alarmist, right? How can the Germans compare with us in terms of capital ships? Asked Lloyd George, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. If the Navy wants to speed up the construction of warships, it means that additional funds need to be allocated. This is undoubtedly a great pressure on the British finances. Therefore, Lloyd George certainly hopes to maintain the current progress of warship construction. Your Excellency, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, this is definitely not alarmist talk. Although the Germans have always kept their cutting-edge warships highly secret. However, through many clues, we can still draw rough conclusions. For example, the Germans' first-class battleships, they named the Nassau-class battleships. A total of 4 were built. The displacement of the Nassau-class battleships is roughly the same as our Street. The performance is roughly equivalent to that of our Street Vincent-class battleship. But, everyone, don't forget that this is the first dreadnought of the Germans. The Street Vincent-class battleship is almost the most powerful battleship in active service in the Royal Navy. It is, Churchill continued. Suddenly, the smiles on the faces of the cabinet ministers gradually dissipated. They are not fools, so they can naturally hear the stakes. The performance of the first-class dreadnought of the German Navy is equivalent to that of the most powerful dreadnought of the British Navy. Is this worth it? Doesn't that mean that none of the battleships built before can compare with the German Navy? In this case, once the war starts, wouldn't the Royal Navy's capital ship be suppressed? How could these proud British people accept such a result? This is the latecomer advantage of the Germans. However, the Orion-class battleship we are starting to build already uses a 343mm main gun. Once it enters service, it will greatly increase the strength of the Royal Navy. Secretary of the Navy McCann retorted, That's right, our Orion-class battleship is very powerful. But if it is going to be put into service, I'm afraid it will have to wait until the next year. What's more, according to intelligence, the second-tier battleship that the Germans have already served, namely the Hugo the Lion-class battleship, uses a 343mm main gun. Churchill once again dropped a blockbuster. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It is absolutely impossible for the Germans to develop a 343mm main gun before us. McKenna shouted. Indeed, this news is really shocking. The Royal Navy's battleships equipped with 343mm main guns have just begun to be built. However, the German Navy's battleships equipped with 343mm main guns have already entered service. This undoubtedly shows that the gap between the two sides is too large. Even the Royal Navy has been left behind by the German Navy. Prime Minister Asquith's face also became serious. Is the gap between the Royal Navy and the German Navy already so big? Your Excellency, this is just a guess by the intelligence agency, and it has not been confirmed yet. However, the possibility is very high. I think this should be worthy of our attention, Churchill said. Prime Minister Asquith nodded. Even though it has not been confirmed, this information is too important. Britain must be vigilant against this. Otherwise, once the intelligence is true and Britain is not prepared, the consequences will be even more serious. Mr. McKenna, does the Navy have any countermeasures against this? Prime Minister Asquith asked. Your Excellency Prime Minister, I will ask the major shipyards to speed up the construction of the Orion-class battleship. In addition, the follow-up King George V-class battleship and the Iron Duke-class battleship will also start construction as soon as possible. The Germans, it is impossible to surpass us in the number of capital ships, McKenna said. Britain's shipbuilding capacity ranks first in the world. Many shipyards are capable of building battleships. As long as they build battleships at full capacity, they will soon be able to increase the strength of the Royal Navy. How did the Germans have so much money to build battleships? With their fiscal revenue, they simply can't afford it. Chancellor of the Exchequer Lloyd George said, "Yeah, this is a big problem. We have vast colonial support and can get riches from the colonies to strengthen the navy. But what about the Germans? Although their industrial output exceeds ours, their fiscal revenue is much higher than ours. Not necessarily more than us. What's more, they have to face enemies on land. In order to defend against France and Russia, the strength of the German army is also strengthening. Under such circumstances, where did the Germans get so much money to build such a how many battleships?" said War Secretary Richard Haldane. "This is undoubtedly the question in the minds of British cabinet ministers. Your Excellency, I may have guessed the reason," Churchill said. "What's going on?" Prime Minister Asquith asked. "The German royal family may have used their wealth to support the construction of the navy," Churchill said. Prime Minister Asquith nodded. "Indeed, it is very likely that this is the reason. The wealth held by the German royal family is also amazing. It seems that we have to let His Majesty the King strongly support the development of the navy," Prime Minister Asquith said. The other ministers also nodded repeatedly. A gleam of joy flashed across the face of Secretary of the Navy McKenna. With more money, they can build more battleships, and the strength of the Royal Navy can be further improved. In addition to the German royal family supporting their navy, I think that the German Crown Prince Oscar is also using his own money to support the navy. The German Welfare Lottery Company, which earns a large amount of wealth in the UK every year, is now using develop their navy and become an enemy of the British Empire. Such behavior is undoubtedly extremely shameless. Therefore, we should close the German Welfare Lottery Company, Churchill suggested. Churchill has long been very dissatisfied with the German Welfare Lottery Company's money grabbing in the UK. Now, it is undoubtedly possible to take advantage of this opportunity to attack the German Welfare Lottery Company. Chapter 152. Lost heavily. The Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company, founded by Qin Tian, can be called the most profitable company in Europe after promoting its business to the whole of Europe and the United States. The profit obtained every month is an astronomical figure, even if a considerable part of it has to be used for welfare and allocated to local snakes. But Qin Tian's profit is still very considerable. Countries have long been jealous of the German Welfare Lottery Company. It's just that due to Qin Tian's status and the reputation of the German Welfare Lottery Company in Europe, he dared not act rashly. But if the Germans use the profits made by the German Welfare Lottery Company to develop armaments as an excuse, it will undoubtedly be able to block the business of the German Welfare Lottery Company in various countries. Then replace it with a domestic company, or the government directly participates in the operation. In this way, a considerable income can be obtained. Whether this income is used for armament construction or other aspects, it is a good supplement to the finances. Your Excellency, Mr. Churchill, this suggestion is really great. The wealth that the German Welfare Lottery Company plunders from the UK every year is tens of millions of pounds. If we can obtain this part of the wealth, our financial pressure will be reduced a lot. Lloyd George, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, was the first to jump out in support. Secretary of the Navy McKenna followed suit because he knew that if the government obtained this wealth, it would most likely be used to build warships for the Navy. Although the United Kingdom is rich and powerful, the Navy's military expenditures are not lacking. But no one will think too much money. Your Excellency, Prime Minister, we must not just stand by and watch the Germans use our money to build warships and then attack us. This is a crime against the entire British people. We must close all the business of the German Welfare Lottery in the UK. McKenna also shouted. However, if we do this, I'm afraid that the relationship between us and Germany will further deteriorate. Prime Minister Asquith was a little worried. Your Excellency, the conflict between us and the Germans is already very acute. To put it bluntly, we are even on the verge of going to war with the Germans. Under such circumstances, we don't need to think about it at all. The attitude of the Germans has changed. As long as it is determined to be beneficial to the British Empire and can help the interests of the British Empire, even if it offends the Germans, we should do it, said Sir Edward Grey, Foreign Secretary. Other ministers also expressed their support for blocking the business of the German welfare lottery company in the UK. Your Excellency Prime Minister, we must not only block the business of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the UK, France and Russia, but also notify them. If possible, contact the US government and let the US government also block the Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the United States. In this case, the profits of the German welfare lottery will be greatly affected. The support they can provide to the German Navy will be much smaller. It is delusional to surpass us. Churchill continued. Your Excellency, Churchill's suggestion is really great. Without sufficient financial support, the development of the German Navy will inevitably be greatly affected. It is wishful thinking to compete with the Royal Navy. McKenna all smiles. Well, let's do this. Churchill, the business of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the UK is handed over to you. We not only want to seize the business of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the UK, but more importantly, we want to get this part of the profits it will do. Your Excellency, the Foreign Minister, France and Russia will be notified by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The United States should also lobby them as much as possible. I think the huge profits of the German welfare lottery must also make those greedy Americans. You should be very jealous. Prime Minister Asquith said. Yes, Your Excellency the Prime Minister. Both Churchill and Sir Edward Grey replied. Your Excellency, cutting off the development funds of the German Navy is just a way. The most important thing is still the development of the Royal Navy itself. Only when we become stronger can we not be afraid of the German challenge at all. Churchill said. Prime Minister Asquith nodded. All the profits we get from the welfare lottery will be invested in the construction of the Navy. The Royal Navy must become the world's #1 navy in the next few years. Any other country, don't even think about challenging the British Empire in this regard. In June 1910, the governments of Britain, France, and Russia announced almost at the same time that the business of the German welfare lottery company in their territory was illegal and should be seized. For a while, the business of the German welfare lottery company in Britain, France, and Russia was all stopped. At the same time, all funds that have not yet been transferred in the banks of the three countries have also been frozen. What's more, the British and French markets have always been one of the main markets of the German welfare lottery. Losing these two markets now will inevitably cause Deutsche Welfare Lottery to lose nearly 1/3 of its profits. This is definitely a heavy blow to the Deutsche Welfare Lottery company. Your Highness, what should we do now? The heads of our branches in Britain, France, and Russia have been arrested. The company has been sealed up, and the bank accounts have been frozen. Karl von Jonah, president of Deutsche Industries AG, looked nervous. Although the Deutsche Industries Group has developed into a large consortium, the Deutsche Welfare Lottery company is still the most profitable company in the consortium. The loss of markets in three countries is undoubtedly a heavy loss for the Deutsche Welfare Lottery. In our business activities in Britain, France, and Russia, there is no tax evasion, right? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, absolutely not. Our business is extremely enviable. In order to avoid being caught by others, we have always operated with integrity, and there will be absolutely no tax evasion. Karl von Jonah right assured. Damn it, from this point of view, the governments of Britain, France, and Russia are clearly targeting me. Qin Tian couldn't help but cursed. Although, he has known for a long time that the governments of Britain, France, and Russia will not let it go once they find out that the German welfare lottery company is quickly plundering their wealth. But I still didn't expect that their response would be so fast and decisive. So much of the wealth of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery company was too late to transfer, resulting in heavy losses. Chapter 153. It's not too late for a gentleman to take revenge for 10 years. Oscar, the Deutsche Welfare Lottery has suffered heavy losses this time. William II asked with concern. In response to the seizure of the business of the German welfare lottery company in Britain, France, and Russia, Wilhelm II even held a special meeting in front of the imperial court to discuss it. The Minister of the Navy, Marshal Earl Tirpitz, was even more worried. Qin Tian provided the Navy with a low-interest loan of 100 million marks every year. If the profits of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery are affected by the lottery, will the support for the Navy be reduced? This is a big event for the development of the Navy. Father, the loss is indeed very large. The direct loss is more than 100 million marks. Not to mention, after losing the markets in these three countries, our profit loss will exceed 1/3. Qin Tian's expression also changed. Not very pretty. All along, Qin Tian's development can be said to be smooth, and he has hardly encountered any major setbacks. But now, Britain, France, and Russia have directly used national administrative orders to deal him a major blow. Damn. The governments of Britain, France, and Russia are really abominable. They are destroying the market economy and free competition by doing this. William II was furious. The other high-ranking military and political officials of the empire were also full of anger. Your Majesty, we must protest this matter to Britain, France, and Russia, and we can't just let it go. Foreign Minister von Kidron-Wachter said, the civil servant faction has now turned to Qin Tian, and Qin Tian's interests have been damaged, which means that their interests have also been endangered. Protesting is probably useless at all. Since Britain, France, and Russia dared to do this, they must have already expected our reaction. They will definitely find various reasons to prevaricate us. Anyway, we and their relationship is already very clear. That is, war is about to break out. Under such circumstances, Britain, France, and Russia naturally don't have to be afraid of tearing faces with us. Prime Minister Bernhard von Gillow said. Is that the case? Asked Marshal Earl Tirpitz, Minister of the Navy. Suddenly, there was a silence in the office. Indeed, Britain, France, and Russia are slapping Germany in the face, which makes them very angry. However, apart from a few words of protest, they have nothing to do with Britain, France, and Russia, unless it is a direct war. But it is a pity that Germany is not ready for war at all. If there is a war, their chances of winning are not great. So, don't take such a risk. Your Excellency Marshal, Deutsche Industries Group's support for the Navy will not be affected by this. Although we have lost a large part of profits, the needs of the Navy will be guaranteed first. Qin Tian said. Marshal Earl Tirpitz was relieved. What he feared most was that the Navy's shipbuilding plan would be affected by this. However, since Britain, France, and Russia dare to do this blatantly, we absolutely can't let it go. Further, I request that after defeating Britain, France, and Russia in the future war, the losses of the German welfare lottery company will be reduced. They spit it out in multiples. A ruthless look flashed in Qin Tian's eyes. Qin Tian has never been a kind man who repays evil with virtue. His own interests have been damaged. How could he remain indifferent? It's just that there is no way to escape to justice now. He can only swallow this breath first. Wait until the time is right for revenge. It is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge for 10 years. Qin Tian is certainly not a gentleman, but he still has the patience to wait a few years. Well, Oscar, it's best if you can think like this. Let's remember the losses that Britain, France, and Russia have caused us this time. After defeating them in future wars, we will make Britain, France, and Russia pay the price. Since now the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company lost hundreds of millions of marks. Then, after the war, we will ask Britain, France, and Russia to compensate the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company an additional 1 billion marks. Wilhelm II said. That's right, they must be severely punished. The other ministers also said one after another. Of course, there is a premise for this. That is, in future wars, Germany needs to win the war. Otherwise, everything is empty talk. The next day, the German government protested against the seizure of the German welfare lottery by Britain, France, and Russia. Sure enough, Britain, France, and Russia all began to prevaricate. They not only sealed up the business of the German welfare lottery company, but also set up their own welfare lottery company to take over this business. It can be seen that the governments of the three countries have already planned this for a long time. The loss of the markets of Britain, France, and Russia certainly caused the German welfare lottery to suffer heavy losses in profits. However, the bad news didn't end there. According to news from the US branch, the US government seems to be interested in taking action on the market of Deutsche Welfare Lottery. The US market is also a huge market for Deutsche Welfare Lottery. Even, the profits obtained from the United States have exceeded the profits obtained from the mainland. If the US market is lost, after losing the markets of Britain, France, and Russia, it will be a serious blow to the German welfare lottery. Your Highness, the information we have obtained is that the British are fanning the flames. They are inciting those who are jealous of our profits and want to drive us out of the American market. Karl von Jonolit's face was very ugly. The British move is really vicious. Qin Tian couldn't help but sighed. Your Highness, what should we do next? Carol asked. Qin Tian thought for a while. Americans have always valued profits. As long as there is profit, they dare to do anything. Therefore, we can only think of a way from this aspect. Carl, inform our partners in the United States to adjust the profit distribution starting next month. Originally, we took 60% of the profits. Now, we are willing to give up 20% of the profits. In addition, they will also be responsible for arranging 20% of the profits for welfare undertakings. Qin Tian said, Your Highness, do you want to give up so much profit? If the profits used for welfare are also handed over to them, they will definitely swallow them all. Those guys are very greedy, and they have never had any bottom line. Carl said, frowning. I can't control that much anymore. Being able to keep 40% of the profit is also a major victory for us. It's better than losing all of us and not getting any profit at all. Although he was very unwilling, Carol still nodded. He knew Qin Tian was right to do so. Chapter 154, Second Moroccan Crisis. Deutsche Welfare Lottery's business in the United States will naturally require the support of local forces in the United States. Previously, according to the agreement between the two parties, 20% of the profits obtained by the Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the United States were used for social welfare undertakings, 20% were distributed by the local forces in the United States, and the other 60% belonged to Germany, owned by the Welfare Lottery Company. Such a distribution plan naturally made the American local forces very dissatisfied. However, the Deutsche Welfare Lottery at that time developed rapidly and had extremely strong profitability. In addition, Qin Tian, the owner of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company, has a distinguished status. Therefore, the local forces in the United States reluctantly accepted such a distribution plan. But now, Britain, France, and Russia have begun to block the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company. This makes the situation of Deutsche Welfare Lottery in the United States is very difficult. If it is not handled well, the American branch of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company may be shut down like the branches in Britain, France, and Russia. Of course, the US government is unwilling to offend the German government. But with Britain, France, and Russia at the forefront, they naturally have nothing to fear. Similarly, Germany did not dare to force the United States to the side of the Allies. Germany was under enough pressure to counter the Allies. If the United States is added, Germany may have no chance of winning. It is precisely because of this that Qin Tian would rather lose part of his profits than worsen the situation. Even if it can get 40% of the profit, this is not a small amount of income for the German Welfare Lottery Company. Once the American branch of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company is also shut down, it will be even worse. The local strength of the United States is very satisfied with the compromise of the German Welfare Lottery Company. To be able to share an extra 20% of the profit is already double what it was before. What's more, the Deutsche Welfare Lottery Company agreed to hand over the profits used for social welfare undertakings to them, which means that their profits will further increase. As for welfare, all you need is to use a little money to fool the poor. Anyway, America is a world where money comes first. The poor have no power at all. This also made the British instigation in the United States useless. The American branch of the Deutsche Welfare Lottery has weathered the storm for the time being. Although some benefits were lost, they were preserved. Qin Tian finally breathed a sigh of relief. During this period of time, he has been under tremendous pressure. Fortunately, it was finally over for the time being. The British, the French, the Russians, and the Americans who took advantage of the fire. You wait for me. My money is not so easy to take. When Germany wins the future world war, I will let you swallow it. I spit out everything that goes down. Qin Tian thought viciously. Time passed little by little, and the naval arms race among the world's major powers gradually began to escalate. The British Navy's shipbuilding program began to accelerate. A large number of warships began to be built. They tried to secure their naval superiority as much as possible. The United States has also joined the arms race. The rich and powerful Americans, except for lagging behind Europe in terms of technology, are not bad at all in other aspects. The unique geographical location and strong industrial strength allow them to devote most of their energy to the development of the navy with confidence and boldness, and easily build a powerful navy that is the third largest in the world. As for Germany, it is carrying out its own shipbuilding plan in an orderly manner. The King-class battleship and the Der Flieger-class battlecruiser are being built according to plan. The next level Bavaria-class battleships and Mackensen-class battlecruisers are already in the blueprints designed by Qin Tian. Construction was to begin in 1911. In this case, when the future war breaks out, the two battleships will be able to catch up. Time entered 1911, and in February, Qin Tian's eldest son was born. After 2 lifetimes, he finally became a father. As soon as this little guy was born, he enjoyed endless glory. Although he already had many grandsons, William II still loved Qin Tian's eldest son very much, so he named him Friedrich directly, and he was canonized as Prince of East Prussia, with a respected status. As time goes by, the international situation has become more and more tense. The contradictions between the Allies and the Allied powers are also intensifying little by little. Everyone seemed to be able to hear the footsteps of the war getting closer, and the air seemed to be filled with the smell of gunpowder. On May 21, 1911, a tribal uprising against the Sultan broke out in Morocco. The French took the opportunity to send troops to occupy Fez, the capital of Morocco. You know, this is definitely a serious provocation for Germany. 6 years ago, a crisis broke out in Morocco. For this reason, France and Germany almost broke out in war. In the end, a meeting was held in Algeciras and the Algeciras resolution was reached. The resolution recognized Morocco's independence, but France and Spain were responsible for Morocco's police affairs. France controls customs and police in Morocco. Germany's interests were also required to be guaranteed. But now, the French actually directly sent troops to occupy the capital of Morocco, which simply violated the original agreement. For Germany, this is undoubtedly intolerable. William II, in particular, could not bear this. The French are so hateful. They are blatantly breaking the agreement. This time, the German Empire must never back down. William II yelled in his palace. When the Moroccan crisis broke out last time, William II chose to compromise and retreat due to the interests of Britain and France, which dealt a serious blow to his prestige in Germany. This time, he will never make the same mistake again. The safety of the lives and properties of the empire's merchants and expatriates in Morocco, as well as the interests of the empire, must not be violated. Tirpitz, send a warship to Morocco, William II ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded immediately. Although, everyone knows, this will undoubtedly stimulate the development of the situation. However, Germany obviously couldn't bear it any longer. Letting the Allies see Germany's attitude is also a warning to them. Qin Tian also agrees with this. Chapter 155, Rattling. Your Majesty, if we send warships to Morocco, this may further intensify the situation and cause the French to overreact, making the situation even more tense. Foreign Minister von Kidron-Wachter was a little worried. Intensification is intensification. What's the big deal? French, do you still dare to really go to war with us? William II said indifferently. Indeed, although France is Germany's old enemy, after Germany's industrial strength, military strength, and population and other factors can crush France, William II believes that France is no longer a concern, and there is no way to threaten Germany. If it weren't for Britain and Russia to support France, Germany would be able to knock the French down in minutes, and make them kneel on the ground, and learn to be human. Of course, it is precisely because of the support of Britain and Russia that the French are so arrogant and dare to provoke Germany again and again. Your Majesty, France is certainly nothing to worry about. But we have to consider the attitudes of Britain and Russia. Especially the British. They are already quite dissatisfied with our vigorous development of the Navy. If we intensify the situation at this time, the British people will definitely react accordingly. Once the gun goes off, the situation becomes uncontrollable. Prime Minister Bernhard von Gillow said. Could it be that we just do nothing? Let the interests of the empire be shamelessly stolen by the French. William II was a little dissatisfied. Your Majesty, it is very necessary to express the attitude of but at the same time, it is best not to detonate the war. After all, our war preparations have not been completed yet. Marshal Count Tirpitz also said, Your Excellency Tirpitz, if we go to war with the British now, can the Navy defeat them? Little Moltke asked suddenly. Marshal Earl Tirpitz was taken aback, thought for a while, and then replied, Your Excellency Chief of Staff, our King-class battleships and Derfliner-class battlecruisers will not be able to serve until the end of the year. The Bavarian-class the battleships and the Mackensen-class battlecruisers are about to start construction. If we only rely on our existing capital ships to confront the British Navy, there is about a 50% chance of defeating the British Navy. Of course, the matter of naval battles, no one can tell. There are too many factors that will affect the outcome of the decisive battle at sea. King William II nodded in satisfaction. The German Navy has a 50% chance of winning against the British Royal Navy. This is undoubtedly very remarkable. It is not in vain that he has been vigorously supporting the development of the Navy over the years. Otherwise, the German Navy would have to wait until the year of the monkey to catch up with the British Navy. Of course, William II also understood the meaning of Marshal Earl Tirpitz. That is, it is best to wait until the Bavaria-class battleships and Mackensen-class battlecruisers enter service before going to war. In that case, Germany will have 2 tiers of 10 battleships equipped with 380mm main guns, and 2 tiers of 6 battlecruisers equipped with 380mm main guns. This will give the German Navy a decisive advantage on top battleships. The possibility of the German Navy defeating the Royal Navy is undoubtedly even higher, 50%. Certainty, that's already very high, Your Majesty, although we are not ready for war. But similarly, the British are not ready for war. If we take this opportunity to go to war with them, our chances of winning are also very high. It won't be too small, Little Moki suggested. Obviously, this proposal of Little Maoki is another crazy proposal. Neither William II nor other senior officials of the empire thought about going to war now. For everyone, it is a bit too hasty to set off a great war that concerns the fate of the empire and the nation now. After all, once the war starts, it is impossible to stop it before the winner is determined possible. Therefore, everyone is very cautious about whether to start a war. No one wants to be defeated in the end, so as to become a sinner of the empire and the nation. Even William II, who was headstrong and conceited, was cautious on this issue. It's too early to go to war now. Let's look at the development of the situation, and then talk about it. William II said. Yes, Your Majesty. Zhao Maoki nodded, but a trace of unwillingness flashed in his eyes. Qin Tian saw all of Zhao Maoki's reactions. He was very clear about Little Maoki's thoughts. As Qin Tian became more and more influential in the army, the living space of Little Maoki and his group of people was being squeezed. Even though Zhao Maoki was the chief of the army's general staff, he felt tremendous pressure. If the war can break out earlier, these pressures can be well eliminated. Further, the Navy can send a light warship to Morocco first to see the development of the situation, and then make a decision on the next step. Qin Tian suggested. King William II nodded and accepted Qin Tian's suggestion. After the meeting, Marshal Count Tirpitz issued an order for the gunboat Leopard to go to Morocco. After Qin Tian learned of this, he shook his head speechlessly. It seems that the ability of history to correct mistakes is still very strong. Even though the world has been changed by me now, it is still returning to the original track bit by bit. Qin Tian secretly thought. In another time and space, Germany also dispatched the warship Leopard to Morocco. However, in the end, the Moroccan crisis still failed to evolve into a war. Therefore, Qin Tian believes that, although the situation is very tense this time, it is still very unlikely that a war will be detonated because of this. So far, Germany's war preparations have not been able to complete. Similarly, Qin Tian's preparations have not yet been completed. Various advanced weapons are still under preparation. Qin Tian certainly hoped that these preparations could be completed before the war broke out. In this case, in future wars, the chances of winning will be even greater. The Leopard gunboat is a Rildis-class patrol ship belonging to the German Imperial Navy. It used to serve mainly in German overseas colonies. Such a small warship is not even qualified to participate in large-scale naval battles. However, it is precisely because of such a small warship that the international situation has become more and more tense. The French reacted extremely violently to Germany sending warships to Morocco. The French government clamored that, if Germany did not withdraw its warships, they would send more troops to Morocco. This also made the relationship between France and Germany very tense, a situation of daggers drawn. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Temporary Compromise. Germany and France are important members of the Allied powers and the Entente powers respectively. Germany, in particular, was the leader of the Allies. Now that the two countries are at war with each other, it naturally makes the international situation very tense. Some pessimistic people even believe that war is inevitable. Especially other members of the Allied powers and the Entente powers were greatly affected by this. According to the treaty signed at the beginning, once the war broke out, they would inevitably be involved. Germany's two allies, the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the Kingdom of Italy. The Austro-Hungarian Empire will definitely fulfill its ally and follow Germany to war against the Allied powers. However, I'm afraid no one can guarantee what kind of decision they will make. France's two allies, Russia and France, have signed a military alliance treaty. Once war starts, Russia will definitely participate in the war. As for the British, although they have not signed a military alliance treaty, the French confidently believe that the British will definitely not sit idly by. Otherwise, once France is defeated, it will not only be of no benefit to Britain, but will also endanger the dominance of the British. Therefore, the French are confident. Otherwise, they would not dare to treat Germany so toughly. The disastrous defeat in the Franco-Prussian War was a nightmare for many French people. In France, there are also two factions. One faction wants revenge and defeats Germany in future wars. The other faction tried their best to avoid war. It's just that the French government now clearly has the upper hand with the main fighting faction. Facing the increasingly fierce conflict between France and Germany, the British side also finds it difficult. Prime Minister Asquith convened members of the cabinet to discuss countermeasures. The current situation is also very tense for the United Kingdom. These senior officials of the British Empire had to be cautious. Gentlemen, tell me, will the French and the Germans fight for Morocco this time? Prime Minister Asquith asked. You know, 6 years ago, Kaiser Wilhelm II visited Morocco, which aroused considerable dissatisfaction among the French. They almost broke out in a war because of this, dragging the whole world into the war. Your Excellency, the current situation is hard to say. The attitude of the Germans is very tough. Of course, the attitude of the French side is also very tough. They have all shown their determination to fight at all costs. If the situation goes further, the possibility of war is undoubtedly very high. Sir Edward Grey, Foreign Secretary, looked worried. Damn, the Germans know how to make trouble. Secretary of the Navy McKenna cursed. The current Royal Navy is developing rapidly. However, building a battleship is not an easy task. It usually takes 2 to 3 years. Therefore, it will take a long time for the Royal Navy's strength to undergo a blowout development. During this time, the Royal Navy was supposed to avoid getting involved in the war. As the Minister of the Navy, McKenna is undoubtedly under great pressure. The Royal Navy, which has not been defeated for hundreds of years, will definitely not be able to fail in future wars. Otherwise, his name will definitely be passed down forever as a disgrace to the Royal Navy. McKenna, I don't want that to happen. Your Excellency Prime Minister, how about asking the French to compromise a bit? After all, without our support, the French would not dare to provoke the Germans. Even if they combined with the Russians, it would be very difficult for them to defeat Germany. Chancellor of the Exchequer Lloyd George suggested. No, this is absolutely not possible. Before Prime Minister Asquith could speak, Churchill, the Minister of the Interior, jumped out. France is an important ally of ours. In the event of a war with Germany in the future, France will be the main ground force against Germany. The army of the British Empire, no matter in terms of size or strength, cannot compete with the Germans. We must rely on the French. Therefore, under such circumstances, we must unconditionally support France and let them see our sincerity. In this way, in future wars, the French will cooperate closely with us. Churchill said. The ministers of the British cabinet nodded their heads one by one. They also believe that under the current circumstances, it is almost certain that a war will break out in the future. I just don't know when the war will break out. France is an important ally of Britain. Therefore, for the sake of the future situation, it is very necessary to support France. There is another reason, that is, we cannot compromise with the Germans. Otherwise, the Germans will think that we are afraid of them and will make further progress. Therefore, we must be tough. Only in this way can deter the Germans and buy us more time. Churchill continued. Your Excellency, Churchill is right. We cannot compromise with the Germans. Prime Minister Asquith said. Your Excellency, what if war really broke out because of this? Sir Edward Grey asked. If a war breaks out because of this, I believe that the British Empire also has enough strength to deal with the war and win the war. Prime Minister Asquith said. His attitude is undoubtedly very firm. Your Excellency, although many warships of the Navy are still under construction. However, once the war starts, the Royal Navy is confident to defeat the Germans. McKenna said. Prime Minister Asquith nodded in satisfaction, very satisfied with the Navy's statement. The British government has been very tough on this Moroccan crisis. They openly advertised that France's action in Morocco was a just act and demanded that Germany exercise restraint and withdraw its warships. At the same time, the Royal Navy also dispatched a light cruiser and a destroyer from Gibraltar to Morocco to express their support for France. British support gave the French even more confidence. They said that they will never back down on the Morocco issue. If Germany wanted to go to war, they would fight for it. Under such circumstances, Germany had to consider whether to go to war at this time. On this issue, the Allies united and showed their support for France. However, Germany's allies are not so united. While Austria-Hungary expressed support for Germany, the Kingdom of Italy called for restraint on both sides. This makes the situation even more unfavorable for Germany. Under the circumstances, Germany can only choose to compromise temporarily, take a step back, and then look for opportunities. Chapter 157, Italian Ambition. Damn Italians, how did we choose them to be our allies? William II was furious in his office. Although it has been decided to temporarily compromise with the Allied powers, William II is still very unwilling in his heart. If the Kingdom of Italy can stand up and express its full support for the German Empire, perhaps Germany can continue to be tough. Perhaps the situation will change. William II didn't need to think about it, but this time Germany's compromise and concession again would have a great impact on the country. Even his prestige will be greatly affected by this. This made William II very angry. Father, the Italians are always two-faced and always thinking about their own interests. It is impossible to get them to support us unconditionally. Not to mention, once the war starts, it will also be related to their own fate. It's understandable that they hesitate to move forward. Qin Tian looked at it very openly and was not angry because of the Italians' performance. Of course, this is because Qin Tian already knew this would be the result. He has always been on guard against the Italians, so that even without the help of the Italians, Germany can still win in future wars. Your Majesty, Your Highness is right. The Italians have never thought about fulfilling their obligations as allies. Therefore, if a war breaks out in the future, we cannot expect too much from the Italians. Prime Minister Bernhard von Gillow sighed. Your Majesty, although we have compromised on the issue of Morocco, we can make up for it in other ways. In this case, there is an explanation for the people in the country. Von Kidron Vahite said. King William II nodded, feeling a little better. Everyone, no matter what, this incident is a shame for the German Empire. We must keep this shame in mind. In the future, we must defeat them and wash away this shame. William II looked fierce. William II hated the Italians for being ineffective at critical moments and being double-faced. But what he hates the most is still Britain and France. In order to curb the rise of the German Empire, Britain and France have exhausted their minds. They provoked the German Empire time and time again, causing the German Empire not only to lose face, but also to lose a lot of benefits. This is naturally unacceptable to William II. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone replied. They all know that there is only one way for the German Empire to rise. That is to defeat Britain and France through war in the future, dominate Europe, and then dominate the entire world. And for their own interests, and to maintain the old world colonial system. The British and French, of course, will spare no effort to contain the German Empire. This is almost an irreconcilable contradiction. Therefore, there is no other way but to go to war. In order to win, both sides can be said to do everything possible. The Second Moroccan Crisis ended peacefully under the active concession of Germany. The two sides signed the Treaty of Fez, and Morocco officially became a protectorate of France. Of course, France gave up part of the French Congo as a price. It can be regarded as leaving a little face for Germany. Otherwise, Germany will lose face this time. Rayo is like this. All social classes in Germany are also quite dissatisfied with this German compromise. Many elites even pointed out that Germany cannot just compromise and give in. In that case, Germany will lose more interests. Only in World War I can Germany's interests be guaranteed as much as possible. It's just that war is not a child's play, and it can't be decided in a sentence or two. Once there is a war, there is no way out. If it wins, that's good, and Germany will soar into the sky and become the world's hegemon. But if defeated, the consequences are also unimaginable. Therefore, no one dared to take the risk. No one wants to go to war until they are fully prepared. This is not only true of Germany, but also the member states of the Allied powers. Therefore, the international situation seems to be very tense. However, it seems that the war will not start at all for a while. Of course, it is not ruled out that emergencies will break out, which will lead to war. Kingdom of Italy, Rome. In the royal palace, King Vittorio Emanuele III was speaking to Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti. Your Excellency Prime Minister, we rejected the request of the Germans and did not show support for them. I'm afraid that this will make the Germans hold grudges. After all, we are allies with the Germans. It may be inappropriate to offend them like this. Vittorio Emanuele III worried. Your Majesty, the reason why you did not express your support for Germany is entirely for the benefit of the Kingdom of Italy. If Germany and France break out of war because of the Morocco issue, the consequences will be very serious. The Allied powers and the Entente powers will go to war because of this. If we want to fulfill, if the covenant is not established, then we will also be involved in the war. This will be very detrimental to the Kingdom of Italy. Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti said. Vittorio Emanuele III nodded. Like many Italian officials, he was not optimistic about the Germans. After all, Britain, France, and Russia are not vegetarians. Especially the British, who have been the hegemony of the world for hundreds of years, did not do it for nothing. There are so many countries that once wanted to challenge the British Empire, but in the end they all ended in failure. If the Kingdom of Italy follows Germany to challenge the United Kingdom, it's okay to win, and they will get a lot of benefits from it. But if you lose, the consequences will be very serious. Your Excellency, if war breaks out, will the Germans win? Vittorio Emanuele III asked. Your Majesty, it is very difficult to say. Although the German military power is constantly developing. However, judging from the current situation, they are undoubtedly at a disadvantage. Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti said. Vittorio Emanuele III nodded in recognition of this point of view. Your Majesty, with the help of this time the Morocco issue has attracted the attention of European powers. Our long-prepared plan can be implemented. Giovanni Giolitti said. Vittorio Emanuele III's eyes suddenly brightened. Now that you are ready, let's proceed. Restoring the glory of the great Roman Empire will start now. Vittorio Emanuele III said excitedly. Chapter 158. Oil exploration rights. The ancient Roman Empire, whose ruling area spanned the three continents of Asia, Europe, and Africa, was powerful in the whole of Europe, West Asia and North Africa, and could be called the overlord of the world. The Kingdom of Italy also claims to have inherited the mantle of the Roman Empire, and they always want to reproduce the glory of the ancient Roman Empire. Although there are many European powers, it is very difficult for the Kingdom of Italy to rise. However, the king and government of the Kingdom of Italy are fighting for this. In order to further expand outwards, to achieve the goal of turning the Mediterranean Sea into its own bathtub, the Kingdom of Italy has been actively preparing. And their first target is undoubtedly the declining Ottoman Turkish Empire. In Europe, the Ottoman Turkish Empire is no longer the powerful country that defeated all European countries. Their territorial area has been shrinking again and again. Although, North Africa still nominally belongs to the territory of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But in fact, it has become the target of coveted and invaded by various countries. Many places have been reduced to the colonies of European countries. Italy has been trying to seize the Turkish Tripolitania and Cyrenaica, now Libya, as a forward base for expansion in North Africa. Tripolitania and Cyrenaica are a desert of Turkey in North Africa, with limited economic value, but an important strategic position. It faces Sicily and controls the narrower sea in the central Mediterranean. In 1881, during the process of carve-up of the North African territory occupied by the Turkish Porte government, Algeria, which France began to invade in 1830 and gradually reduced it to a colony, and Algeria, 1881, successively became French protectorates. Therefore, the nominal possessions of the Ottoman Turkish Empire in North Africa were also owned by the Western colonists. France planned to annex the two provinces of Tripolitania and Cyrenaica of the Ottoman Turkish Empire on this ground. This attempt was opposed by European countries, especially Italy, which had long wanted to establish a colony in North Africa. For this reason, Italy actively carried out politics and diplomatic activities, reached agreements and tacit understandings with various powers, formed the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria, and recognized Italy's interests in North Africa. In order to prepare for the annexation of the two provinces of Tripolitania and Cyrenaica, Italy continued to emigrate and send businessmen to the two places from 1880 to 1911 to buy land and actively expand its power. Clothes, in the name of fishing sponge off the coast of Tripolitania, conducted coastal surveys, instructed Italian Catholic priests to go deep into the interior, to collect intelligence in the name of missionary work. Italy, learning from its failure in Ethiopia in 1896, kept on the lookout for timing. Your Majesty, the outbreak of the Moroccan crisis is a godsend opportunity for us. If we miss this opportunity, it will be difficult for us to find such a good opportunity again. Therefore, we cannot let go of this opportunity. Jova said Giolitti. Well, I fully agree with this. However, before going to war against the Ottoman Turkish Empire, we'd better get the support of other countries. Vittorio Emanuele III said. Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti nodded. Britain, France and other countries should have no objections. This time we did not support Germany, and they reciprocated. They should also express their acquiescence to our actions. As for the Germans, although they dissatisfied, but I don't think the Germans will be foolish enough to force us to the side of the Allies. Well, that's the reason. However, let's send a special envoy to Germany, to try to get the support of the Germans. Vittorio Emanuele III said. Yes, Your Majesty. Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti had no objection to this. On the one hand, the Kingdom of Italy is preparing to invade Tripoli and Cyrenaica, and on the other hand, it is active in various European countries to gain more support. After the Italian envoy arrived in Germany, he was not able to be summoned by William II. William II is still angry now. How could he give the Italians a good face? Even Bernhard von Bülow, Prime Minister of the Empire, did not meet with the Italian envoy, which made the Italians very dissatisfied. German Foreign Minister von Kidron-Wachter even bluntly claimed that the German Empire was very angry at the betrayal of the Kingdom of Italy during the talks with the Italian envoy. The Italian envoy naturally managed to explain, but all fools know that it is simply perfunctory. However, just when the Italian envoy thought he could not complete the task, Qin Tian took the initiative to meet him, which surprised the Italian envoy very much. After all, because of the Second Moroccan crisis, there has been a major crisis in the relationship between Italy and Germany. Qin Tian's initiative to meet with him will undoubtedly bring about a turning point in the relationship between the two countries. Qin Tian met with the Italian envoy in his office. Your Highness, hello. The Italian envoy was very humble. Hello, Your Excellency Special Envoy. I'm personally very dissatisfied with the performance of the Kingdom of Italy in the Morocco crisis. Qin Tian said. His Royal Highness, there must be some misunderstanding. Italy attaches great importance to its relationship with the German Empire, the Italian envoy said quickly. Fortunately, Qin Tian did not continue to dwell on this issue. Your Excellency, is your country ready to attack the Ottoman Empire? Qin Tian asked. The Italian envoy nodded. On this issue, there is nothing to hide. The actions of the Kingdom of Italy are not unknown to other countries. Your Excellency, as an ally, although the Kingdom of Italy is incompetent, however, the Empire attaches great importance to its relationship with the Kingdom of Italy. Therefore, we are happy to see the Kingdom of Italy expanding in North Africa. We are also willing to support the expansion of the Kingdom of Italy. As for weapons and war supplies, if the Kingdom of Italy needs them, we can provide some of them, Qin Tian said. The Italian special envoy was overjoyed immediately. He never thought that Qin Tian's attitude would be like this. It was a surprise. However, the Italian envoy also knows that there is no free lunch in the world. The German Empire's support for the Kingdom of Italy obviously also had a conspiracy. His Royal Highness, what price does the Kingdom of Italy need to pay? Once the Kingdom of Italy occupies Tripoli and Cyrenaica, I hope Dutch Energy can obtain the right to exploit oil there. Qin Tian said. Oil extraction? Is there oil there? The Italian envoy knew nothing about it. His Royal Highness, I will report to the country immediately. The Italian special envoy said. He thought this was nothing at all, and the Italian government would definitely agree to this condition. Chapter 159. It's oily. Do Tripoli and Cyrenaica have oil? Italian Prime Minister Giovanni Giolitti convened experts and scholars in the field of oil and asked them this question. Your Excellency, how can there be oil there? We have explored there long ago, and there is no oil there at all. Italian experts and scholars answered Giovanni Giolitti in this way. Although there are still some doubts in his mind, Giovanni Giolitti no longer dwells on this issue. Even if Tripoli and Cyrenaica do have oil, it would be worth it if they could use it to repair relations with the German Empire. However, Giovanni Giolitti also thinks, how can there be oil in North Africa, which is a desert? Giovanni Giolitti instructed the Italian envoy to agree to Qin Tian's request. However, just in case the Germans did find oil in North Africa, Giovanni Giolitti demanded that the Italian government receive a 40% share of future North African oil revenues. After all, Italy is also a country that is extremely short of oil. If there is oil in North Africa, it can be directly shipped back to China by sea. In that case, it is far more cost effective than buying from other countries. Qin Tian did not refuse the request of the Italians. Now Germany is storing oil on a large scale. With most of the Navy's warships using oil-fired boilers, the Army's large-scale procurement of trucks, and the increasing number of private car ownership, Germany's consumption of oil is also increasing. In order to obtain the most oil at the least cost, Qin Tian decided to exploit the oil in North Africa after careful consideration. Although, once the war broke out, the oil fields there would definitely fall into the hands of the Allies. But Qin Tian believes that after 1 or 2 years of exploitation, Germany can store enough oil. In this case, it will basically be able to deal with future wars. When the war is won, the oil fields will naturally be taken back. Moreover, it can also be used as a reason to further extort more wealth from the defeated country. With the support of Germany, the Kingdom of Italy has more confidence in this war. Using the pretext of unfair treatment of Italians in Tripolitania and Cyrenaica, the Kingdom of Italy preemptively issued an ultimatum to Turkey on September 28, 1911, threatening to invade the above-mentioned areas before sending troops to North Africa. Turkey called on all countries to stop Italy's invasion attempt, but all major countries persuaded Turkey to accept Italy's request. In this case, the Italian-Turkish War broke out. Although the combat effectiveness of the Italian army is very good, the Ottoman Turkish Empire, the sick man of West Asia, is not much stronger. Although, the resistance of the Ottoman Turkish Empire and the locals caused heavy losses to the Kingdom of Italy. However, when Italy sent as many as 100,000 troops to the battlefield, the Ottoman Turkish Empire could not continue to fight. This war, which lasted for nearly a year, ended in the disastrous defeat of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. The treaty between the Kingdom of Italy and the Ottoman Empire was signed on the 18th of October 1912 at Uchi, near Lawson. The treaty stipulated that the Ottoman Empire must withdraw all military personnel from the province of Benghazi, but in return, Italy would return Rhodes and 12 islands close to the Ottoman Empire. The province of Benghazi will have a special status, with a regent and judges representing the caliphate. Before appointing these regents and judges, the Ottoman Turks would consult the Italian government. The Ottoman government will be responsible for the costs of the regency and judges. This makes the Ottoman Turkish Empire still own these territories in name. But in fact, these territories have become Italian colonies and are under Italian control. It is extremely beneficial for Qin Tian that the Kingdom of Italy won this war. Before the signing of the treaty, the Deutsche Energy Company, which had been prepared for a long time, immediately sent a large number of exploration experts and engineers into Cyrenaica and went straight to the Sirte Basin. You know, the oil in the Sirte Basin accounts for 80% of oil reserves in Libya in later generations. Libya's oil reserves rank 9th in the world and 1st in Africa. Although many people doubt whether there is oil in North Africa, a desert. However, Moritz, the general manager of Deutsche Energy, is convinced. He personally led the team to search for oil in the Sirte Basin. Perhaps because of God's blessing, they drilled the first high-yielding oil well in the Sirte Basin just 1 month later. Almost everyone was stunned. Everyone did not expect that there is so much oil buried under a piece of yellow sand here. On the one hand, Moritz organized people to carry out further exploration. On the other hand, he immediately reported to the country. After Qin Tian received the news, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. Carl, from now on, Deutsche Industries Group will fully support the energy company's oil exploration in Cyrenaica and find a way to repair the oil pipeline in the shortest possible time to transport the oil there. In addition, domestic oil storage facilities, the construction of the country also needs to be accelerated. We need to reserve more oil for future wars. Qin Tian ordered. Although the current oil price is still relatively low, it is naturally cheaper to store the oil you extract yourself than to buy it from outside, and you don't have to worry about getting stuck. Yes, Your Highness. Karl von Johnereit nodded excitedly. He also knew how important the oil fields discovered in Cyrenaica were to Germany. Deutsche Energy Company found oil in Cyrenaica, which made other countries full of envy and jealousy. Especially the Ottoman Turkish Empire that had just lost Cyrenaica and the Italian government that handed over the oil exploration rights to Deutsche Energy Company. They were crying without tears. If there was regret medicine, they would never do such a thing. Especially the Italian government now can only watch the Deutsche Energy Company exploit the oil there, although they can get 40%. But who would want the 40% if they could swallow it all? Of course, in the face of the powerful German Empire, the Italian government did not have the courage to repent, so it could only admit it with its nose. Britain, France and other countries are worried. Germany has obtained a large amount of oil, which will free Germany from the dilemma of energy shortage, and it is a huge threat to them. Chapter 160, War Preparations. In Berlin, the capital of the German Empire, the Imperial Palace, in the study of Wilhelm II, a royal meeting is underway. His Royal Highness, congratulations. I heard that the oil fields exploited by Deutsche Energy in Cyrenaica have amazing reserves. The Minister of the Navy, Marshal Earl Tirpitz, smiled. As the Navy has more and more warships, and almost all of these warships use oil-fired boilers, the Navy's fuel consumption is also increasing. Although, the Navy has also built oil storage facilities of up to 1 million tons. However, if the war drags on for too long, millions of tons of oil may not be enough. In addition, the Navy does not have excess funds for crude oil reserves. Now that Deutsche Energy has acquired an oil field with huge reserves, the problem is easily solved. Your Excellency, Marshal, I didn't expect that there is really oil there. This is undoubtedly great news for the German Empire. I have ordered the energy company to go all out and strive to send it to the country in 3 months. Crude oil, further increase our oil reserves. Qin Tian said. After obtaining the oil fields, it is natural to increase the domestic oil reserves. After all, once the war breaks out, even if you want to transport the oil back before defeating the British Navy, it is impossible. The other important ministers of the empire also showed a hint of joy on their faces. After all, this is undoubtedly a great thing for the empire. This is God blessing the German Empire. In future wars, we will definitely be able to defeat the British and French. Little Moltke said. This is not God's blessing, but Laotiz's foresight. Otherwise, it will take decades for the oil in Libya to be extracted. Qin Tian said secretly. He knew that little Maoki was flattering William II in a different way. At the same time, it can also downplay Qin Tian's contribution, which is simply killing two birds with one stone. King William II nodded in satisfaction, seeming to agree with Moltke's statement. Damn Italians, they have been mistaken this time. Perhaps, this is God punishing them. William II said. He is still brooding over the behavior of the Italians last time. Your Majesty, the Italians must regret this time. Although His Royal Highness promised to give them 40% of the share. But they could have swallowed it all. Bernhard von Bülow said with a smile. The other ministers also laughed. It's a pity that the oil field is too far away from the mainland. We have no way to guard it. Once the war breaks out, the British and French will definitely destroy or send troops to occupy our oil field. Or, the Italians will turn their faces directly. Take the oil field as your own, Qin Tian said. The faces of everyone suddenly became a little ugly. They all knew that the possibilities Qin Tian mentioned were almost certain to happen. This is not a good thing for Germany. There is no way around this. After the war, the British will immediately dispatch the navy to block our coastline. Even if there is oil, it will not be shipped back. However, as long as our navy can defeat the British navy, then all problems will be solved. It's settled. Marshal Count Tirpitz said. Tirpitz, it seems that the task of the navy is very difficult. Is the Imperial Navy confident of defeating the British? William II looked at Marshal Earl Tirpitz. Although, the development of the German Navy is very rapid, but their opponent is the overlord of the sea after all. It has always been very difficult to challenge the overlord. On this challenging road, many corpses have fallen. The Spaniards, the Dutch, the French, now it's the turn of the Germans. In William II's heart, there was also some uncertainty. Don't worry, Your Majesty, the Imperial Navy is confident that it will defeat the British in one fell swoop in future naval battles. Tirpitz replied firmly. Everyone, the situation is becoming more and more tense now. It seems that there is not much time before the outbreak of war. From now on, the Empire is fully preparing for war. Once the war breaks out, the Empire needs to complete preparations and launch an attack as soon as possible. William II ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone replied. While Germany was happy to acquire oil fields, the British government was discussing countermeasures. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Exclamation mark. How can the luck of the Germans be so good? We are suppressing the channels for the Germans to obtain crude oil, but now they have suddenly obtained a large oil field. Doesn't this make our previous efforts in vain? Churchill very angry. It seems that we have to think of a new way. Prime Minister Asquith's face is not very good. Britain learned from intelligence that almost all warships of the German Navy used oil-fired boilers. In order to further attack the German Navy, the British began to manipulate crude oil, but they did not expect that they had tried their best, but they still failed. Your Excellency, let the Mediterranean Fleet dispatch. Directly destroy the German port in Cyrenaica, and then send troops to destroy the oil fields. Secretary of the Navy McKenna suggested. No, a large part of the revenue from the oil field belongs to the Italians. If we do that, the Italians will be angry. Don't forget, we are now trying to win over the Italians and make them betray the Allies. The Foreign Secretary, Sir Edward Grey, immediately objected to the proposal. Well, that's right. The oil fields cannot be destroyed yet. However, we can suggest that the Italians occupy the oil fields alone. After the war breaks out, if we can win the Italians to join our camp, then the Italians can occupy the oil fields. The Germans we won't get a drop of oil in the future. If the Italians don't know what's good and don't want to join our camp, we'll destroy the oil fields. Churchill suggested. Yes, let's do this. Since the Germans cannot be prevented from obtaining oil for the time being, then we will not care about this aspect. After the war breaks out, all problems will be solved. Prime Minister Asquith said. Yes, Your Excellency the Prime Minister. All cabinet ministers replied. Gentlemen, the current international situation is becoming more and more tense. We can clearly see that the Germans are preparing for war. Therefore, we don't have much time. From now on, we will do our best to prepare for war. Once the war breaks out, the Germans must be defeated. The British Empire must not be defeated in future wars. We will still be the leaders of the world. Prime Minister Asquith said. God bless the British Empire. Chapter 161, Armor. In September 1912, Wilhelm II and a group of army generals inspected the 8th Army of the German Imperial Army. As the commander of the 8th Army, Qin Tian naturally accompanied him throughout the process. The current 8th Army has undergone radical changes compared to before, although the force is still only 10 infantry divisions. However, after a large-scale facelift, the current firepower of the 8th Army is more than 3 times that of before. A large number of machine guns and artillery equipment make the 8th Army have powerful firepower at all levels. Coupled with long-term arduous training, the combat effectiveness of this legion is absolutely the best in the entire German Empire Army. Although, other units of the German Army have more or less purchased some new weapons produced by German arms companies. However, there are not many of these weapons, because of the little Maoki's interference. Although it can improve the firepower of the troops to a certain extent, it is far from reaching the level of the 8th Army. William II and a group of generals of the German Army stayed in the 8th Army for 2 full days. William II and others were very satisfied with the combat effectiveness of the 8th Army. Even Zio Maoki, who didn't get along with Qin Tian, couldn't find any faults. Of course, if you insist on saying something wrong, it is not without it. The powerful firepower of the 8th Army was bought by the terrible consumption of ammunition. Once the war begins, the 8th Army's need for logistical support will be even more astonishing. Therefore, Zio Maoki believes that this approach of the 8th Army is not advisable. It's just that Qin Tian ignored Maoki's accusation. Once the battle begins, the 8th Army will face millions or more Russian troops with 10 infantry divisions. Without strong firepower, what a fart. Even if the logistical pressure is great, the main task of the 8th Army will be to defend and counterattack. It will not go too deep into Russia. In this case, although the logistical pressure is great, it is not unbearable. On the afternoon of September 17th, William II and the generals of the German Army watched the exercise of the secret forces of the 8th Army. This is also the new type of equipment that Qin Tian tried his best to sell to Wilhelm II and a group of German Army generals. I saw William II, Qin Tian, and a group of generals sitting in the training ground. In front of them was a defensive position consisting of ditches, barbed wire, and mud pits. Oscar, are you going to let the 8th Army send a force to attack this defensive position? William II asked with great interest. Yes, father. However, I guarantee you will be shocked by the 8th Army's attacking force. It will be an epoch-making force. Qin Tian looked confident. Oh, really? Then I'll wait and see. William II smiled. Before Qin Tian took over the 8th Army, William II was more or less worried. After all, the 8th Army will have very difficult tasks in future wars. But now it seems that Qin Tian has developed the 8th Army very well, so he doesn't have to worry about it at all. 10 minutes later, Admiral Hindenburg told Qin Tian that the exercise troops were ready. Qin Tian immediately said that it is time to start. Soon, there was a rumbling sound in the venue. This surprised everyone, including William II. Afterwards, they saw a black iron bump painted with an iron cross driving out from the side of the practice field. Those iron bumps slowly moved forward. The short barrel is tilted upwards. Under the sunlight, it shone with an icy light. Although, there were only about 40 tanks on the field. However, it brought an extremely shocking feeling to everyone. It was as if they were facing a torrent of steel. Oscar, what weapon is this? William II asked. This is a new type of weapon developed by the German Armament Company. It can be called a chariot, but I'm used to calling them a tank. Qin Tian said with a smile. Tank? William II nodded. These tanks rushed to the defensive position in the exercise field. The fortifications composed of trenches and barbed wire can't resist these steel guys at all. The tracks of tanks can easily cross trenches, run over barbed wire, and break through defensive positions. Those machine gun positions can't threaten these tanks at all. In order to show everyone the defense of the tank, a machine gun fire is manned. A G09 general purpose machine gun started firing. Dense bullets hit the armor of a tank. Dang dang dang. There was a crisp sound, and the tank was shot by the general purpose machine gun, sparks flying everywhere. However, the tank continued to advance unstoppably, as if there was no pressure at all. Oh my god. This weapon is really great. It is almost invulnerable. If our army is equipped with this weapon, then the French defensive offensive will definitely not be able to stop us. Minister of War von Falkenhayn exclaimed. The other army generals also nodded. They were also completely shocked. At this moment, a tank aimed at an unmanned machine gun fire point. Boom. A 37mm grenade flew out of the barrel of the tank and hit the target instantly. The machine gun was fired at once, and was blown away. Oscar, very good, very good. The Imperial Army must purchase this weapon called a tank. William II said. After seeing the power of the tank, even little Maoki couldn't stop it. Otherwise, it would really cause William II's dissatisfaction. Once William II was furious, the consequences can be imagined. Father, the 8th Army has just formed an armored regiment. In the future, we plan to expand it into an armored division. In this case, the 8th Army will have an additional division, which requires the approval of the Ministry of War. Qin Tian struck, while the iron was hot. No problem. William II said immediately. Others, including Little Maoki, did not object. In this way, the troops under the 8th Army increased from 10 infantry divisions to 10 infantry divisions, and 1 armored division. The exercise ended. Wilhelm II and a group of German generals circled around the tanks in the exercise field. They are very curious about this weapon, and want to equip their troops as soon as possible. His Royal Highness, can the tank withstand the enemy's artillery fire? A general asked. If it hits directly, it can't resist it. But if it's shrapnel, there shouldn't be any problem. Qin Tian replied. Although the tank developed by the German Armaments Company was limited by technology, they developed it too quickly, and it was indeed too crude. Various performances are completely incomparable with the tanks of later generations. However, against the flesh and blood of infantry, there is still no problem at all. Chapter 162. Air Force. The tanks equipped by the armored forces of the 8th Army Corps were the first tanks developed by the German Arms Company in accordance with Qin Tian's requirements that could be used in actual combat, and they were also the first tanks to be mass-produced. Qin Tian directly named this tank number 1 tank. The number 1 tank is 5.12 meters long, 2.61 meters wide, and 2.41 meters high. The front asterisk armor is 30 mm thick. The side and rear armor are 15 mm thick, and it weighs 12.8 tons. It adopts the Kundlin 5 engine with a power of 100 horsepower. The road speed is 30 km/h and the off-road speed is 10 km/h. The armament is a 37mm tank gun and 2 7.62mm heavy machine guns. One is the heading machine gun in front of the car body, and the other is the coaxial machine gun of the main gun. Among them, 100 rounds of ammunition are prepared for tank guns and 2,000 rounds for machine guns. Chief of Staff, purchase a batch of tanks, and equip other troops. I think that, once the war starts, these tanks will be completely useful when attacking the French. William II said. Yes, Your Majesty. Little Maoki nodded. Subsequently, Gustav Krupp and Moltke Jr. signed a purchase agreement. In the next 2 years, the German Arms Company will provide the German Army with 1,000 number 1 tanks. 1,000 vehicles seems like a lot. But if it is assigned to the 7 legions of the German Army on the Western Front, each legion can only be assigned more than 100 vehicles. Once the army is expanded, even each infantry division will not even be able to allocate 10 vehicles. Unlike the 8th Army, which directly increases the establishment of an armored division. In Qin Tian's troop establishment, an armored division needs to be equipped with more than 150 tanks. Oscar, I'm very satisfied with the tank you have produced. This will be of great help to enhance the combat effectiveness of the German army. This will give us a greater chance of winning in the next war. William II said. It is our honor. to be able to do our best for the empire's hegemony. It is also our goal. Qin Tian did not take credit for himself. However, father, the secret weapon of the tank is very likely to become our trump card in the war. Therefore, we must keep this weapon highly secret. Otherwise, once it is leaked, it will cause great harm to us. Big loss. Qin Tian reminded. King William II nodded. He naturally knew the truth. Tanks are listed as the top secret weapon of the army. If anyone leaks the news, no matter what their position is, they will be dealt with by military law. Yes, Your Majesty. Everyone was shocked. Oscar, is there anything good to hide? William II asked. Now William II has accepted the fact that Qin Tian has outstanding talent in weapon research and development. Father, there is really one. But, we have to wait until tomorrow, Qin Tian said with a smile. The next morning, Qin Tian led the crowd to the station of the 8th Army Air Force. This is a large airport located about 20 kilometers east of Königsberg. More than 200 aircraft, large and small, of the 8th Army Air Force are parked at this airport. When William II and others got off the car, they were immediately shocked by the planes parked in the hangar. Although, it's not like they haven't seen the plane. However, they had not seen so many planes. In addition, these planes seem to be different from those outside. If those planes in the outside world are ugly ducklings, then these planes are beautiful white swans. Oscar, are these planes the 8th Army Air Force? William II asked. Yes, father. The Deutsche Industries Group has an aircraft research and development center and aircraft manufacturing. These aircraft are our latest research and development equipment for the 8th Army Air Force. After inspection, the performance of these aircraft is not bad. It should be much better than the planes equipped by other countries. Qin Tian smiled. William II nodded and didn't say much. Subsequently, the 8th Air Force began to perform. 2 fighter jets taxied along the runway, then raised their noses and rushed into the sky. These 2 fighters are the newly developed F-2 fighters. Compared with the previous F-1 fighters, the performance of the F-2 fighters has been greatly improved. The maximum speed has been increased to 200 km per hour, and the maximum range has also been increased to 500 km. This also means that their combat radius can reach 200 km. Although, the German military is also developing aircraft, but they are very clear that the aircraft they developed are **** compared with the F-2 fighter jets equipped by the 8th Army. In addition to fighter jets, the 8th Army is also equipped with a bomber. Compared with the F-2 fighter, this bomber, codenamed H-1, is more bloated. The propellers were also not mounted on the nose, but on the wings. This bomber can carry bombs weighing up to 500 kilograms and bomb targets 200 kilometers away. The maximum speed has also reached 150 kilometers per hour. Although, compared with those supersonic bombers and even stealth bombers of later generations, the H-1 bomber is undoubtedly extremely crude. However, for the 8th Army and even the German Army, this gave them a long-range attack weapon. In order to strengthen William II and others' understanding of bombers, Qin Tian specially arranged to take off 10 H-1 bombers and attacked a small hill in the shooting range. When 10 H-1 bombers dropped bombs weighing a total of 5 tons, and the entire hill was shrouded in flames, everyone was shocked. Very well, Oscar, we need these 2 types of aircraft. Whether it is a fighter jet or a bomber, we need to purchase them. William II immediately made a decision. Yes, father. Qin Tian nodded in satisfaction. This is exactly what he wants to see. Under the influence of Qin Tian, Germany has taken the lead in the world in terms of armored forces and aircraft, which will greatly enhance Germany's military strength. In future wars, there will also be a greater chance of winning. William II stated that the German army will purchase more aircraft and establish more air teams in the future to ensure their air superiority in future wars. Everything Qin Tian does has only one purpose, which is to increase Germany's chances of winning in future wars. Especially after he became the crown prince of the empire, his destiny was already tied to Germany. Therefore, he could not bear Germany's defeat in future wars. As long as Germany can win in future wars, his efforts will not be in vain. Of course, Qin Tian believes that with so many advantages, Germany has no reason to lose the war. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, Aircraft Carrier. At the end of September 1912, Qin Tian went to the Ministry of the Navy and called on the Minister of the Navy, Marshal Count Tirpitz. It has been less than 2 years since the war broke out. Time is getting tighter, which also makes Qin Tian is more and more busy, although it has been prepared for many years. However, Qin Tian is still not completely sure whether he can completely win the war in the future. Therefore, Qin Tian could only make as many preparations as possible to increase his own chances of winning. Your Excellency Marshal, how is the Navy's war preparations going? After some brief greetings, Qin Tian went straight to the topic. Your Highness, the Navy's preparations for war have been proceeding in an orderly manner. Capital ships at all levels are strengthening their training so that they can be immediately engaged in the war once a war breaks out. Marshal Count Tirpitz said. The German Navy in this time and space is not a little stronger than another time and space. Even though the pace of building capital ships of the British Navy has begun to accelerate, relatively speaking, the gap between the two sides is not that big. The number of dreadnoughts and super dreadnoughts in active service in the German Navy is astonishing, including 4 Nassau-class battleships, 5 Helgoland-class battleships, 5 Kaiser-class battleships, and 5 König-class battleships, 3 Blücher-class battlecruisers, 3 Moltke-class battlecruisers and 3 Derfflinger-class battlecruisers. In addition, 5 Bavaria-class battleships and 3 Mackensen-class battlecruisers are under construction. Once these battleships are all completed and put into service, the German Navy will have a huge fleet of 24 battleships and 12 battlecruisers. In terms of quantity, it is almost the same as that of the British Navy. In terms of performance, it is even stronger than the British Navy. Therefore, once a decisive sea battle breaks out between the two sides, the possibility of the German Navy winning is much greater than in another time and space. Of course, these are data on paper only. The factors that determine the outcome of a sea battle are far more than these. In addition to the number and performance of warships, there are also the quality of personnel, intelligence, tactics, and even luck. Qin Tian nodded. He also had great confidence in the powerful fleet that was almost built by him. However, no one has ever been able to guarantee such things as naval battles. Only after everything is settled can the winner be truly determined. Your Highness, it is estimated that the Bavaria-class and Mackensen-class battleships will not be able to enter service until the end of 1914 or the beginning of 1915. Will they be able to catch up with this war? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. The current situation is getting more and more tense, and it seems that war may break out at any time, which makes Marshal Earl Tirpitz a little worried. The Bavaria-class battleships and the Mackensen-class battlecruisers are the most powerful battleships of the German Navy. It would be a pity if they did not participate. Should be able to catch up. Even if the war breaks out, the decisive battle will not be fought in a short while. In the early stage of the war, it will be the time for our battlecruisers and underwater troops to perform. Qin Tian said. Once war breaks out, the German Navy's long-prepared battlecruiser formation and submarine force will attack the British sea transportation line, completely paralyzing the British overseas trade, thereby weakening Britain's war potential as much as possible. Even if the goal of forcing Britain to withdraw from the war is not achieved, at least the British can suffer heavy losses. At that time, the Navy will use its main force to fight the final decisive battle with the British Navy. Of course, by that time, I'm afraid that, even if the German Navy does not seek a decisive battle with the British will seek a decisive battle with the German Navy. If the sea transportation line is cut off, Britain will not last much time at all. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded, feeling relieved a lot. Your Highness, do you have any plans for the follow-up models of the Bavaria-class battleships and the Mackensen-class battlecruisers? Marshal Count Tirpitz asked. According to the plan, after the construction of the Bavaria-class battleship and the Mackensen-class battlecruiser reach the middle stage, the construction of the next level battleship should start. The next battleship, wait a little longer. Perhaps, it will be our last battleship and battle cruiser. Qin Tian sighed. What? Your Highness, don't we want to build battleships in the future? Earl Tirpitz was shocked. Qin Tian nodded. Soon, battleships and battle cruisers will become obsolete, and building these capital ships is a complete waste. Marshal Earl Tirpitz was completely stunned. He never imagined that how could these majestic battleships be out of date. From Qin Tian's point of view, it seems that only in this war, they are the protagonists, and it seems that they will not be needed in the next war. Your Excellency Marshal, Your Majesty and the generals of the army recently visited the 8th Army. They watched the performance of the 8th Army's aviation team, and were very shocked. Qin Tian said. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded. He knew about it. With his relationship with Qin Tian, he naturally knew that Qin Tian was speeding up the development of aircraft. However, does this have something to do with the outdated battleship? If fighter planes can take off from the platform on the sea and attack the warships on the sea, do you think those warships can escape? Qin Tian asked. How is this possible? How can those toy-like things threaten the tens of thousands of tons of capital ships? Marshal Earl Tirpitz couldn't believe it. Your Excellency Marshal, although it is hard for you to accept. However, this is the fact. In fact, Deutsche Werft is already building such an offshore platform. I call it an aircraft carrier. These aircraft carriers can carry bombers equipped with torpedoes and go out to sea to fight. Once the target is found, these bombers will take off and attack the target with torpedoes from a distance of more than 100 kilometers. Qin Tian continued. It took a while for Marshal Earl Tirpitz to accept this fact. However, the shock that Qin Tian brought to him this time was so great that his worldview seemed to have been subverted. Your Highness, let's go to the Deutschland shipyard immediately. I want to see those things called aircraft carriers with my own eyes. If it is true what your Highness said, the Imperial Navy must be equipped with this weapon. Marshal Count Tirpitz said firmly. Since the era of giant ship cannons is about to pass, the German Navy must firmly grasp the sharp weapon of the next era. Chapter 164, Abandoned Blue Island. Is this our aircraft carrier? It's almost finished construction. Marshal Earl Tirpitz said, looking at the two aircraft carriers under construction on the berth. The construction of the main body of the two aircraft carriers is almost complete. Most of the deck of the aircraft carrier has been completed, so the outline can be barely seen. Qin Tian nodded. It is estimated that they will be able to serve in the middle of next year. At that time, the carrier-based aircraft unit will go on board for training. We will strive to form combat effectiveness in a year. In this way, if war breaks out in 1914, we can catch up. Your Highness, will aircraft carriers really change the situation of naval warfare as His Highness said? Marshal Earl Tirpitz seemed a bit unconvinced. Don't worry, Marshal, when did I lie to you? Soon, the aircraft carrier will become the protagonist of the naval battle. And the aircraft carrier will replace the battleship and become our main force. Therefore, our main focus next should be on in the development of aircraft carriers and carrier-based aircraft. As long as these two aspects can go hand in hand and succeed, the German Navy will still be able to dominate the world. Qin Tian said confidently. This is already obvious. If Germany can take the lead in the aircraft carrier, it is almost impossible for other countries to challenge Germany. Subsequently, the engineer responsible for the construction of the aircraft carrier introduced the performance of the aircraft carrier to Marshal Earl Tirpitz. These two aircraft carriers were named by Qin Tian as Pioneer-class destroyers, the first ship Pioneer and the second ship Victory. The Pioneer-class aircraft carrier has a standard displacement of 17,500 tons, a full load displacement of 23,700 tons, a total length of 195.6 meters, a width of 31.2 meters, and a draft of 7.6 meters. Equipped with 12 large oil-fired boilers and 2 new steam turbines, the power is 48,000 horsepower, the maximum speed is 27 knots. The maximum speed during the sea trial is 28.5 knots, and the endurance is 12 knots and 9,000 nautical miles. There are 1,200 members, including 200 officers. armed with 8 105mm rapid-fire guns, 12 double-mounted 88mm anti-aircraft guns and 24 12.7mm anti-aircraft machine guns. The most powerful weapon of an aircraft carrier is not the artillery equipped on the aircraft carrier itself, but the fighter jets on it. At the time of design, the number 01 aircraft carrier will carry 48 fighters and 4 seaplanes. Fighter planes are mainly used to attack targets, while seaplanes, with their long range and easy takeoff and landing, are used to scout and find targets. The 48 fighters mainly include 12 fighters and 36 torpedo attack aircraft. The reason why it is not equipped with dive bombers or level bombers. The main reason is that the dive bomber has not yet been developed due to technical reasons. However, the horizontal bomber has a very low hit rate against high-speed moving surface targets. In contrast, torpedo attack aircraft is much more suitable. Although the current torpedo attack aircraft can only be equipped with 350mm light aviation torpedoes, the damage to large surface targets is very limited. However, it is still enough for the aircraft carrier of the British Navy whose defense is already low. Even if it is difficult to sink them, as long as they are injured, forcing them to withdraw from the battle, or creating opportunities for other capital ships of the Navy, it can also play a great role. The power of the 350mm light torpedo is not enough. Marshal Earl Tirpitz also directly pointed out this point. The Aircraft Research and Development Center is developing better torpedo attack aircraft, striving to be able to carry 450mm medium torpedoes. The power of 350mm light torpedoes is indeed not great, and it is difficult to damage them when dealing with our battleships. However, the British's defense of capital ships has never been very good. As long as it is damaged, the rest will be dealt with by capital ships, Qin Tian said with a smile. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded again and again. If the carrier-based aircraft of the aircraft carrier can damage the capital ship of the British Navy, then the next battle will undoubtedly be even better. With the power of the German Navy's surface fleet, isn't it easy to deal with the wounded British Navy, Your Highness? After the completion of these 2 aircraft carriers, will they be handed over to the Navy? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. Of course, I personally donated these 2 aircraft carriers to the Navy. I hope that the Navy can completely defeat the British in future naval battles, Qin Tian said with a smile. Your Highness, please rest assured. In future naval battles, we will definitely be able to take down the British. Marshal Count Tirpitz looked confident. With a powerful surface fleet, coupled with a large underwater submarine force, and finally an aircraft carrier, if the German Navy has no way to win, then he, the Secretary of the Navy, can jump directly into the sea. Time passed little by little, and soon, the Balkan War began. The Ottoman Turkish Empire, which once shook the 3 continents of Asia, Europe, and Africa, was once again beaten to the ground by several small countries that it had previously colonized. Of course, behind those small countries, there is the support of countries such as Britain and France. Otherwise, no matter how bad the Ottoman Turkish Empire was, it would not have lost so ugly. During the Balkan Wars, Germany remained neutral and gave Ottoman Turkey a little support from time to time. There is only one purpose, and that is to win over the Ottoman Turkish Empire and let the Ottoman Turkish Empire join the camp of the Allied powers to fight. Although, the Ottoman Turkish Empire has not made a clear statement. However, they are becoming more and more hostile towards countries such as Britain and France, and the possibility of joining the camp of the Allied powers is also increasing. At the end of 1913, at an imperial meeting, the Imperial Crown Prince Qin Tian made a proposal that shocked everyone, including William II. Because Qin Tian proposed to abandon Blue Island and the stronghold of the German Empire in the Eastern Empire. His Royal Highness, the Empire has not many strongholds in the East, and Blue Island is the most important one. In order to obtain such a stronghold in the East, we have spent a lot of effort. If we give up now, then our previous efforts will all be in vain. Zhao Maoki was naturally the first to jump out and criticize Qin Tian's suggestion. He wished that Qin Tian would make a mistake, so that King William II would not like Qin Tian. Sure enough, after listening to Qin Tian's suggestion, William II didn't look too good. Because Germany rose too late, the world has almost been divided up by other powers. Especially the Eastern world is almost divided up. In order to find a suitable breakthrough point in the Eastern Empire, Germany has spent a lot of effort. You know, when the 8-power Allied forces invaded China, the commander-in-chief was the chief of staff of the German army. Originally planned to fight Japan on Blue Island, but this plot cannot be written, so I have to give up. Chapter 165. The Eve of the War. Germany's industry has developed very fast, and now it has surpassed Britain and France, and has become an industrial power second only to the United States. Moreover, in terms of technology, it is fully ahead of the United States. There is no doubt that Germany is the #1 industrial power in the world. But it is a pity that as Germany's industrial output value increases, so does the market they need. Although Germany has a population of more than 60 million, this market still cannot satisfy the development of German industry. Although the markets in European countries are large, this market has long been saturated. Moreover, the existence of tariff barriers between countries greatly restricted Germany's industrial development. In order to obtain a larger market, Germany can only expand overseas. But it is a pity that after Germany completed its reunification and then rose, the whole world has long been divided up by Britain, France and other countries. After Germany's participation, it only got a little crooked melon and cracked dates, which could not meet Germany's industrial development needs at all. In the colonies of other countries, German products cannot enter. This also makes Germany obviously have better products than Britain and France, but they cannot sell them. On the other hand, countries such as Britain and France can rely on the colonial market to obtain huge profits even for inferior goods produced with backward technology. This is naturally extremely unfair to Germany. This is the main reason why the World War broke out. In the absence of a way to obtain a broader market, Germany can only use force to change all this. As long as Germany can defeat Britain and France in the war, it will be able to destroy the world colonial system they established and gain more colonies and markets. As a result, the bottleneck that has been restricting the development of German industry naturally no longer exists, and Germany's industry will also usher in a blowout development. This will make Germany a stronger industrial country and surpass the United States, which is not impossible. The Eastern Empire with a huge population is also a vast market that Germany covets. However, because of the late participation, Germany's influence in the Eastern Empire is also very low. But William II has always hoped to develop in the Eastern Empire. Now, Qin Tian directly proposes to give up the Blue Island. Doesn't this mean that William II's plan will come to naught? The other ministers also looked at Qin Tian, wondering why he made such a suggestion. After all, this is clearly not good for Germany. They were also very puzzled, wondering why Qin Tian, who was always smart, would make such a suggestion. That obviously didn't please William II. Although Qin Tian's crown prince status has become more and more stable, it does not mean that he can do whatever he wants. Oscar, tell me your reason. William II said with a cold face. Father, you should be aware of the existence of the Anglo-Japanese alliance. Once we start a war with the British, the Japanese will definitely take the opportunity to attack Lan Island. They have always coveted Lan Island. It's just that we are afraid of the power of the empire and dare not act rashly. Once the war breaks out, all the power of the empire will be dragged to Europe. This will undoubtedly make the Japanese boldly attack Blue Island. With our strength in Blue Island, we simply can't defend there. Instead of losing strength there, it's better to give up as soon as possible, which can further save our strength. Qin Tian said. Although he felt a little unwilling, William II had to admit that what Qin Tian said made sense. Your Majesty, although Japan is a small country, they have already become one of the world's great powers. They have defeated the Eastern Empire and Russia successively, and have strong military strength. Their navy is also developing rapidly. If we attack Blue Island, our Pacific Fleet and the troops stationed on Blue Island will not be able to resist their attack at all. Therefore, the suggestion of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is worth considering. Marshal Earl Tirpitz said. This is just your highness's guess. Japan may not have the guts to attack Blue Island. No matter how bad it is, we can send reinforcement to Blue Island to increase its strength. The fortress we have painstakingly built is not so easy to break through. Yes. Xiaomoki retorted. Never. underestimate the ambitions of those dwarfs. They have developed from a small country to one of the world's great powers. Their strong ambitions have played a huge role. Besides, Blue Island is too far away from us. Even if it is to send reinforcement, how many can be dispatched? It is always too far away. Von Falkenhayn also said. HMPH. Even if the Japanese really dare to do that, after we win the war, they will obediently spit out the Blue Island. Little Naoki said. Even so, our loss is already irreparable. Besides, even after we win this war, the center of gravity of the future empire will still have to be on the Atlantic Ocean. After all, on the other side of the ocean, there is an extremely powerful country. They will become the next main opponent of the empire. Qin Tian said. King William II remained silent, although emotionally it was somewhat unacceptable. However, his rationality told him that abandoning the Blue Island was still very beneficial to the German Empire. After thinking for a few minutes, William II said, "Okay, according to Oscar's intention, return to the Blue Island to the Eastern Empire." "Yes, Your Majesty." Prime Minister Bernhard von Gillow and Foreign Minister von Kidron-Wacht replied. Naturally, it would be better for the government to come forward with this matter. Qin Tian also heaved a sigh of relief. Finally solved this problem. Germany's voluntary abandonment of Blue Island shocked all countries in the world, especially the Japanese, who were even more dissatisfied. They originally planned to wait until the war broke out and take the opportunity to launch an attack on Blue Island to further expand the territory of the Eastern Empire. But now all their plans are in vain. Britain, France and other countries are also more vigilant. Because Germany's approach, no matter how you look at it, is shrinking the front line and preparing for future wars. This also made the two countries speed up their preparations for war. Time passed bit by bit and soon entered 1914. Qin Tian has also been busier this year. Personally urged the Navy and the Army that you can influence strength and training and combat readiness. No one knows, if history does not change, the war will break out this year. Although Qin Tian is not sure whether it will develop according to the original historical trajectory, it is always right to prepare in advance. When Qin Tian learned that in June 1914, the Austro-Hungarian Empire would hold an exercise in Bosnia, he knew that what was supposed to come had finally come. Chapter 166, List Testimonials. It was time for the new book to be released again, and Lao Yu started to feel uneasy as usual. Thanks to the support of book friends, so that Lao Yu can continue on this road. But how long he can go, Lao Yu himself doesn't know. Whether the readers can continue to support Lao Yu. Originally, there was no plan to open a new book. The previous book, Heroes of Anti-Japanese War Overlord Nanayang, was expected to write more than 5 million words. But when the Divine Beast came, there was no other way. Several books were blocked, and everything had to start all over again. Although the new book is still about military affairs, it is not what Lao Yu is best at. If there is anything that is not well written, please be more tolerant of the book friends. Lao Yu will strive to write this book well, and I hope that book friends will continue to support. Lao Yu is on the shelves, which means that fees will start. There is no way to do this. The old fish must live on. The previous old fish was blocked, so that the old fish was about to run out of food. The mortgage has to be repaid every month. The milk powder money for the daughter. The wife does not work and takes care of the children at home. Therefore, the whole family counted on Lao Yu's codords to make some money. The first month, when a new book is on the shelves, is very critical, and Lao Yu still wants to hit the new book monthly ticket list. Although, this time there are many masters on the shelves, and the competition is fierce. I hope book friends can help Lao Yu. About the update, after it was put on the shelves, Lao Yu was also ready to fight for the monthly ticket list. 5 chapters are guaranteed to be updated every day. In addition, for every 100 additional monthly tickets, Lao Yu will add a new chapter. In other words, if you can get 100 monthly tickets every day, Lao Yu will add more every day. The more monthly tickets, the more old fish will be updated. This is not only the case in the first month of listing. As long as there is no force majeure, it will be the case every month since then. Lao Yu has written so many books. In terms of updating, he should still be considered a man of character, right? When writing Iron and Blood Power, at most 600,000 words were updated in a month. Finally, thank you for accompanying Laoyu along the way, and hope that everyone can continue to support Laoyu and let Laoyu continue on this road. Thank you all. Chapter 167. Fuse. Austria was originally one of the many states in Germany, but in the war for the leadership of the German Empire, it was defeated by Prussia, and had to withdraw from Germany. Under the leadership of Fletcher Joseph I, the Austrian Empire and the Kingdom of Hungary formed a dual empire. This is the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Together with other components of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is still the strongest in the world, one of the largest countries. Moreover, it has formed the closest military and political alliance with the German Empire. Although domestic contradictions are sharp and there are many problems, but as one of the great powers, the Austro-Hungarian Empire still wanted to expand abroad. The focus of their expansion is the southern Balkan Peninsula. However, the Balkan Peninsula is also the direction of Russian expansion. This led to many conflicts between Austria-Hungary and Russia around the Balkan Peninsula. The Austro-Hungarian Empire wants to annex Serbia on the Balkan Peninsula to further expand their territory on the Balkan Peninsula. Russia, on the other hand, supported Serbia in establishing a unified and stronger southern Slavic state. At the beginning of the 20th century, Serbia, which got rid of the rule of the Turks, became stronger in the Balkans, and became the core of the Yugoslavs' opposition to foreign rule and their struggle for national unity. The Yugoslavs in Bosnia and Herzegovina strongly demanded to get rid of the rule of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and merge with Serbia, to establish a unified Yugoslav state. The development of the Yugoslav national unification movement centered on Serbia made the rulers of the Habsburg dynasty extremely disturbed. Therefore, the Austro-Hungarian Empire stepped up its war preparations with the goal of destroying Serbia, and it was the Crown Prince Ferdinand and the Chief of Staff of the Austro-Hungarian Empire von Hertzendorf who presided over the formulation of the war plan for aggression against Serbia. At that time, anti-Austrian propaganda activities and patriotic groups had already appeared in Serbia. The National Defense Association was established in 1908, and the Black Clothes Association was established in 1911. These two organizations were influenced by the anarchist trend of thought represented by Bakunin and Kropotkin in Europe. The National Defense Council advocated guerrilla warfare to prevent the annexation of Serbia by the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the recruitment and training of volunteers. The Black Hand advocates terrorism, and its goal is to realize the national idea and unify all Serbian nations. In May 1914, German Chief of Staff Mauky met with Chief of General Staff of the Austro-Hungarian Empire Hertzendorf to discuss the war plan against Serbia. On June 12, Archduke Ferdinand held talks with Kaiser Wilhelm II in the castle of Konopist, and predetermined the course of action for launching the war. They all believed that Russia had great difficulties in the country, and could not intervene in the Balkan War. The Kaiser suggested that Austria-Hungary take advantage of this favorable situation to attack Serbia. Wilhelm II also explicitly assured Archduke Ferdinand that Germany would aid Austria-Hungary if Russia intervened in the Osse conflict. With the strong support of Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire decided to hold large-scale military exercises in Sarajevo, Bosnia, near the Serbian border. The time was chosen on June 28, which is the anniversary of Serbia's conquest by Turkey, June 28, 1386. Serbia was used as the imaginary enemy in this exercise, and two corps were dispatched. Archduke Ferdinand and his wife decided to go to Sarajevo for inspection in person. This action of the Austro-Hungarian Empire greatly angered the Serbian nationalists. The Mafia and the local Bosnian secret nationalist group Young Bosnia formulated a plan to assassinate Ferdinand. The Serbian government had discovered the assassination of Ferdinand in advance and opposed it, fearing that this incident might lead to dire consequences, because Serbia could not resist the attack of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Russia had not yet completed the army's reorganization plan. It is impossible to give Serbia strong assistance. The Serbian government tried to prevent the Mafia people from leaving the country, but the border guards linked to the Mafia allowed them to cross the border into Bosnia without any problems. The Serbian government reminded the Austro-Hungarian government through its minister to the Austro-Hungarian Empire that, if Archduke Ferdinand went to Bosnia, his life would be in danger. But the Austro-Hungarian government fell on deaf ears to this warning. After the exercise, Archduke Ferdinand and his wife entered the urban area in an open car. Although Archduke Ferdinand has realized that he may be in danger. Therefore, the guards were specially strengthened. But what he didn't expect was that his behavior this time was still trying to die. When the convoy was driving on the street, the crowd burst into cheers. Archduke Ferdinand was very satisfied with this. He looked forward to the day when the Austro-Hungarian Empire could annex Serbia and dominate the Balkans. It's just that he didn't realize that the crisis had already arrived. Among the cheering crowd, there were several assassins from Serbia. Suddenly, an assassin rushed to the car with the crowd and threw a bomb at the car not far from the car. Boom. The bomb exploded. The cheering crowd suddenly panicked. "Protect your highness," the commander of the guard shouted. Soldiers surrounded the convertible in which Archduke Ferdinand was traveling. Fortunately, Archduke Ferdinand seemed to have better luck. The bomb did not kill him, but only scratched him. After the initial panic, Archduke Ferdinand calmed down. "I'm fine. The parade will continue," Archduke Ferdinand ordered. He thought that after this assassination, he should be safe. "Your Highness, we will go to the hotel right away. I have to be responsible for your safety." The guard commander rejected Archduke Ferdinand's request. Archduke Ferdinand thought for a while and still adopted the suggestion of the guards. The convoy began to change direction, preparing to return to the hotel. However, at this time, the crisis came again. When the car of the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife drove to a corner, another secret organization member, Princip, who was only 19 years old, rushed forward and shot the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife. Bang, bang, bang. Several gunshots sounded, and Princip emptied the bullets in the pistol. As for Archduke Ferdinand and his wife, they were already in a pool of blood. Got. Protect the Grand Duke and catch that assassin. The guards were in a mess. When they surrounded the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife, they discovered that both the Archduke Ferdinand and his wife had lost signs of life at this moment. Archduke Ferdinand's eyes were wide open, as if he couldn't believe that he would die like this. All his ambitions are now in vain. Of course, Archduke Ferdinand was even more unexpected, because his death detonated a world war. All major countries were involved in this war, and tens of millions of people died in the war. Chapter 168, War is Inevitable. On June 28, 1914, it was Sunday. Austro-Hungarian Emperor Franz Joseph I is resting in the garden of the palace. Franz Joseph I is now 84 years old. He is almost the oldest of the monarchs of all countries. Of course, because I'm too old, my energy is no longer as abundant as when I was young. This made Franz Joseph I have to hand over most of the affairs to Crown Prince Ferdinand and the government, and he only made decisions on certain major. Franz Joseph I was also a tragic figure in his later years. Although he married the young and beautiful Princess Sissi as his wife, in 1889, his crown prince Rudolf and his lover died in love, causing him to lose his son, and issues the Austro-Hungarian Empire lost its orthodox crown prince. 9 years later, his wife, Sissi, was stabbed to death with an awl by an Italian anarchist on the shores of Lake Geneva. In 1899, Franz Joseph I was forced to allow Archduke Franz Ferdinand to marry the Countess of Bohemia, Sophie Schotk, as his concubine. This also makes the heirs of Archduke Ferdinand have no right to inherit the throne. Originally, Franz Joseph I thought that this would be the end of his life. But he never expected that the tragedy would still not let him go. In the garden of Schönbrunn Palace, Franz Joseph I sat on a chair basking in the sun with a blanket on his legs. The summer sun made him feel a bit of warmth, and he felt drowsy. Suddenly, Franz Joseph I was awakened by the hurried footsteps of the waiter. "Your Majesty, His Majesty the Crown Prince and his wife were assassinated in Sarajevo," the waiter reported. "What?" Franz Joseph I was shocked. In those cool and cloudy eyes, there was a frightening and fierce light shining. "Let the Chancellor, Archduke Friedrich and Marshal Herzendorf come to see me immediately." Although already trembling with anger, Franz Joseph I forced himself to calm down and gave the order. As the Emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, although the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand was an extremely heavy blow to him, he still had to cheer up. Especially at this time, the Austro-Hungarian Empire must not be chaotic. Otherwise, the consequences will be disastrous. Soon, Mario Weber, Prime Minister of the central government of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Archduke Friedrich, Commander-in-Chief of the Austrian Army, and Marshal Herzendorf, Chief of Staff, arrived at Schönbrunn Palace. Their faces were also very ugly. Everyone knows that it is impossible for the Austro-Hungarian Empire to swallow the assassination of the Crown Prince. War is inevitable. Your Majesty, the Serbs dared to assassinate His Highness the Crown Prince. This is a challenge to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. We can't just let it go. We must mobilize immediately and declare war on Serbia. Marshal Herzendorf was the first to express his opinion. In fact, the plan to invade Serbia was drawn up by him and Archduke Ferdinand together. It's just that they never expected that the opportunity they had been waiting for to declare war was actually exchanged by Archduke Ferdinand with his own life. Now that things have happened, it doesn't make any sense to say anything else. The only thing they can do is to avenge Archduke Ferdinand and make his death worthwhile. Your Majesty, the British, French and Russians are all standing behind the Serbians. If we declare war on Serbia, Britain, France, and Russia will also join in. Prime Minister Mario Weber reminded, Serbia alone cannot naturally be the opponent of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Although, the military power of the Austro-Hungarian Empire is not strong among major countries. But dealing with a small Serbia is still no problem at all. The German allies will support us, said Marshal Herzendorf. Friedrich, what do you think? Franz Joseph I asked. Your Majesty, unless God manifests this war, no one can stop it. Archduke Friedrich said. Franz Joseph I closed his eyes in pain. He knew that this war would be a terrible war. If he was not careful, the Austro-Hungarian Empire would be destroyed. But, as Archduke Friedrich said, the war was inevitable. Whether it is the domestic or international forces of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, they are all waiting for an opportunity for war to break out. The assassination of the Crown Prince of the Austro-Hungarian Empire was undoubtedly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Let the troops mobilize and prepare for war. Franz Joseph I ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. Let the ambassador to Germany go to see the Kaiser. Now, it is time for Germany to fulfill its obligations. Franz Joseph I then issued an order. Germany is an ally of the empire, and they will fulfill their ally obligations. Marshal Herzendorf said, everyone, since war is inevitable, then, try your best to win this war. Franz Joseph I finally said, yes, Your Majesty. Everyone replied. They naturally hope that the Austro-Hungarian Empire can win this battle. But they also know that this is very difficult. Afterwards, Franz Joseph I closed his eyes and said no more. It seemed that what he said just now had exhausted his energy. Mario Weber, Grand Duke Friedrich, and Marshal Herzendorf left immediately. Now that they have decided to go to war, they need to be fully prepared. War is not a child's play, and it cannot be decided with a single sentence. There are too many things to prepare. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand also caused an uproar all over the world. Originally, the world situation was already very tense, and there was a great possibility of war. It's just that there is a lack of a suitable time to detonate the war. The death of Archduke Ferdinand undoubtedly became the fuse that detonated the war. The Serbian government immediately learned of the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand in Sarajevo. This immediately stunned the Serbian government. Although, Serbia has been fighting against the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but they don't think that their small body can really compete with the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Whether it is population, industry, or military, the Austro-Hungarian Empire is definitely not something that Serbia can compete with. If it weren't for Russia to support them behind their backs, they might have been annexed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire long ago. When the Serbian government panicked, Serbian Army Commander Putnik stood aside, ordered the army to enter a state of emergency, and carried out national mobilization to prepare for war. At the same time, the ambassador to Russia was ordered to meet with Tsar Nicholas II to request Russia's support. War, by this time, is inevitable. Chapter 169. Responses from various countries. On Sunday, June 28, 1914, in the afternoon, German Kaiser Wilhelm II and Crown Prince Qin Tian were on a yacht in Kiel, visiting the nearby scenery. He was accompanied by Marshal Count Tirpitz, Minister of the Navy. Another very important purpose of this visit is to inspect the widened Kiel Canal. After the Kiel Canal is widened, naval warships moored in Kiel can pass through the canal and go directly to Wilhelmshaven without having to go around the Jutland Peninsula. This not only saves a lot of time, but also ensures the safety of the fleet. After all, if you go around the Jutland Peninsula, you are very likely to encounter the siege of the Royal Navy. Your Majesty, the Kiel Canal has been widened across the board. In this way, we no longer have to worry about the separate deployment of the fleet. Marshal Count Tirpitz smiled. Well, I'm very satisfied that the Imperial Navy is getting stronger and stronger. This time, the possibility of us defeating the British will be very high. William II was very satisfied with having such a powerful navy. He seems to have seen that his goal is being succeeded step by step. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince has contributed a lot to the Navy's current scale. If it weren't for the support of the Crown Prince and the warships he designed, the Navy would not have been so powerful. Marshal Earl Tirpitz, a face full of praise. Your Excellency Marshal, you are serious. It is my duty to do my best for the strength of the Empire. Qin Tian is very humble. At this moment, a staff officer stepped onto the deck of the yacht. Your Majesty, there is an urgent call from the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The staff officer said. Oh, what happened? William II asked. Qin Tian's eyes flashed with joy, and he knew that it should be that thing happened. You know, he is a little worried today, for fear that history will change. Now, he can finally put his heart back into his stomach. Austro-Hungarian Crown Prince Ferdinand and his wife were assassinated in Sarajevo. The officer continued. What? Both William II and Marshal Count Tirpitz exclaimed. But then, a smile appeared on the faces of both of them. They don't care about the life and death of Archduke Ferdinand. What they care about is what kind of opportunity this incident brings to Germany. Your Majesty, that's great. The assassination of Archduke Ferdinand undoubtedly gave the Austro-Hungarian Empire an excuse to go to war with Serbia. The Russians will certainly not just watch Serbia being attacked by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They will definitely send troops helping the Austro-Hungarian Empire. According to our alliance with the Austro-Hungarian Empire, we are obliged to help the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Marshal Earl Tirpitz said excitedly. William II nodded again and again. Once Russia and Germany both make moves, Britain and France will inevitably be involved. This war will break out because of this. This is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, William II said with emotion. Return to Berlin immediately and gather the main generals of the army and navy. The war is about to break out, William II ordered. For Germany, which wants to change the current national structure through war and obtain a broader colony and market, the Sarajevo incident is indeed a golden opportunity. Germany's military preparations have already been completed. The mobilization of the troops was secretly completed as early as March, and an attack can be launched at any time. And Germany's main opponents, Russia and France, their armies are still undergoing reorganization. This will allow Germany to have a greater advantage in the war. In Moscow, the capital of Russia, at the Summer Palace, after Nicholas II received the Serbian ambassador to Russia, he summoned senior Russian military and political officials. Gentlemen, Serbia has asked us for help. They are about to face the invasion of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And we must not allow the Austro-Hungarian Empire to invade Serbia. Once they occupy the Balkan Peninsula, it will be a disaster for the Russian Empire. So Nicholas II's attitude was very tough. Yes, Your Majesty. Regardless of whether the death of Archduke Ferdinand has anything to do with Serbia, once the Austro-Hungarian Empire occupies the Balkan Peninsula, it will be very detrimental to the Russian Empire. Therefore, we must stop them. Prime Minister Vyacheslav Privy said. When will our army be mobilized? Nicholas II looked at Minister of War Sukhomlinov. Your Majesty, our mobilization will take at least 3 months. Sukhomlinov replied. Nicholas II couldn't help but frowned. 3 months was obviously too long. However, there is no way around it. Who made the Russian Empire too vast, with extremely backward infrastructure, and a mobilization system full of loopholes? Your Majesty, even if the mobilization is not completed, we don't have to worry. The main force of the Germans is on the Western Front, and our standing army is enough to attack East Prussia and defeat them. If we are lucky, we can even fight to Berlin. Grand Duke Nicholas, commander of the Russian army, smiled. Tsar Nicholas II couldn't help laughing. He would be very happy if the Russian army could reach Berlin. He really wanted to see what the wayward and conceited distant cousin would have to say. What about the navy? Nicholas II asked. Your Majesty, the navy is no match for the Germans. But there is no problem in ensuring the safety of St. Petersburg. Admiral Ivan Griglovich, Minister of the Navy, replied. Nicholas II nodded in satisfaction. After the Russian Navy experienced a disastrous defeat in the Russo-Japanese War, it began a laborious reconstruction. Although, the development is fast. But there is still a big gap with the German Navy. However, Russia's most powerful is the army, not the navy. Therefore, Nicholas II did not expect the navy to perform any miracles. It is enough for the navy to cooperate with coastal fortifications and ensure the safety of the Russian mainland. What's more, although the German navy is powerful, their enemy is not Russia, but the maritime hegemony Britain. Everyone, I have already promised Serbia that once they encounter the invasion of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, we will immediately attack the Austro-Hungarian Empire and support them. If the Germans dare to intervene, we will attack East Prussia. Nicholas II was full of spirits said. Russia made concessions and retreated 3 times in the past in the international crisis of 1909, 1912 and 1913, but this time, Tsar Nicholas II decided not to make concessions and retreat this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170, Ultimatum. France and Germany have become old enemies since the Franco-Prussian War. France wholeheartedly wanted to avenge the Franco-Prussian War, and it was ashamed. In the same way, Germany also wants to defeat France again and dominate the European continent. After the Sarajevo incident broke out, France immediately felt a huge crisis. French President Raymond Poincaré asked the army to begin secret mobilization and prepare for battle. At the same time, the ambassador to Russia was also required to contact the Russian side. France and Russia have signed a military alliance treaty. Once the 2 countries are attacked by Germany, the other country must attack Germany unconditionally. The French know that Germany's military strength has expanded too fast. If they rely only on their own strength, they are not Germany's opponents at all. Therefore, they can only pull in other countries to deal with Germany together. Fortunately, Germany has many opponents. The combination of France and Russia is enough to contain Germany on land. Coupled with the support of the United Kingdom, it is not impossible to defeat Germany. The British on the other side of the strait have a somewhat different attitude. The United Kingdom is also ready for war and believes that fighting early is worse than fighting late, and any further delay will be detrimental to itself. Because Britain, seeing that Germany was more productive than itself, would quickly catch up in the naval shipbuilding race, hoping to defeat a dangerous rival by war, while still maintaining naval superiority in 1914. However, after the Sarajevo incident, Britain did not show its intention to join the war at first, because it was worried that Germany would reign in the precipice, and was afraid of taking the responsibility of starting the war first. At the same time, there is a pro-German faction in the British Parliament and Cabinet. In the British Cabinet, 12 cabinet members did not approve of going to war. The entire working class and most liberals opposed going to war. A mass rally in Trafalgar Square demanded that Britain declare neutrality. Under the pressure of the massive peace movement, British Foreign Secretary Grey told the German ambassador to Britain that Britain has no alliance with Russia and France and is not bound by any obligations, and has repeatedly stated that Britain's attitude is to do everything possible to prevent that there is a war between great powers. On July 5, Zhuo Jie, the ambassador of the Austro-Hungarian Empire to Germany, was ordered to submit the personal letter of Emperor Franz Joseph I to Wilhelm II. The letter said, the assassination of the Crown Prince of Austria was the result of the direct instigation of the great Slavophiles of Russia and Serbia. Their sole purpose was to weaken the Triple Alliance and split my empire. My court and my dominion will be in peril for a long time. After the recent terrible events in Bosnia, you must also think that an amicable settlement of the hostilities between Austria-Hungary and Serbia is impossible, as long as Belgrade, the source of this criminal incitement, is not punished. The peace policy of all European monarchies will be threatened. The so-called punishment of Serbia in the letter is to start a war against Serbia. Franz Joseph I begged Wilhelm II to support his war effort. On July 5 and July 6, William II successively convened senior generals and government ministers to hold meetings at Potsdam Palace. He informed his courtiers of the possible war. The generals replied to the emperor that all preparations for war were in place. The chief of quartermaster of the general staff reported to the emperor, after this audience, "I have nothing more to do." The mobilization plan was completed on March 31, 1914. The army is ready, as usual. It can be seen that Germany's war preparations have already been completed. Under such circumstances, Kaiser Wilhelm II issued an order to prepare for war. On July 20, French President Raymond Poincaré and Prime Minister René Viviani visited Russia. The two countries pledged to each other that, in the event of war against Germany, the two countries would fulfill their obligations as allies. Russia and France have repeatedly emphasized the precious friendship between the two countries in the communiques of the talks between the two countries, and on public diplomatic occasions, exaggerated the brotherly naval and army forces, and expressed to each other that they would loyally and unremittingly cooperate with their allies. During the summit meeting between the two countries, the Russian government held a reception banquet at the Winter Palace in Petersburg. During the meeting, Raymond Poincaré talked with the Austro-Hungarian ambassador specifically, asking the ambassador to tell the Austro-Hungarian government should be particularly cautious in handling relations with Serbia. He emphasized, Serbia is a very close friend among the Russian people, and Russia has an ally, France. There are so many terrible disputes on this issue. On July 23, the Austro-Hungarian Empire issued an ultimatum to the Serbian government. Demands that the Serbian government meet the following demands of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Shut down any publications that arouse hatred and contempt for the Austro-Hungarian imperial family. Immediately ban national self-defense organizations and other organizations that promote anti-Austro-Hungarian Empire. Immediately ban educational groups and teaching methods. Delete any teaching content that would or might incite anti-Austro-Hungarian propaganda. Remove officials in the military or administrative departments who are accused of conducting anti-Austro-Hungarian propaganda, and the list of such officials is provided by the Austro-Hungarian government. Accept cooperation with the relevant departments of the Austro-Hungarian government to suppress activities in Serbia that attempt to subvert the territorial integrity of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, with the assistance and instructions of the relevant departments designated by the Austro-Hungarian government. Take legal action to punish planning or execution. June 28, the assassination of those who were on Serbian territory in 1914. The immediate arrest of the two persons named according to the preliminary investigations of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Cooperation in taking effective measures to curb arms smuggling in its territory, explaining to Austria-Hungary. Hostility. Remarks by senior Serbian officials inside or outside Serbia. Take the above measures immediately and inform Austria-Hungary. Serbia is willing to accept the ultimatum proposed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire except for Articles 4 and 5. However, this is obviously not the result desired by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. After Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum, Russia informed the Austria-Hungary Empire that attacking Serbia would trigger Russia's general mobilization, and stated that Russia would not allow Austria-Hungary to defeat Serbia and become the hegemon of the Balkans. On July 26, British Foreign Secretary Grey proposed that Germany, Britain, France, and Italy mediate the discord between Austria and Serbia. However, Britain secretly encouraged France and Russia to fight against Germany and Austria, and promised to support them, which emboldened France and Russia. The true face of Britain was publicly exposed the day after Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. On July 29, Grey received the German ambassador, and made it clear that, if the conflict was limited to Russia and Austria, Britain could remain neutral. Under the circumstances, you will be forced to make an urgent decision. In this case, you cannot sit on the sidelines for a long time. Chapter 171. Declare war. Gentlemen, the Serbs outrageously rejected our request. They assassinated the crown prince of the empire, and at the same time, dared to refuse our request. This undoubtedly shows that the assassination of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince was completely planned by the Serbs for a long time. The empire must punish the Serbs and let them know the price of provoking the empire. Marshal Herzendorf, chief of the Army General Staff of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, said angrily. Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph I sat on his throne with a tired face, not knowing what he was thinking. Is he thinking about the future war situation, the fate of the Austro-Hungarian Empire in this war, or who will inherit the crown prince of the empire after Archduke Ferdinand is assassinated and killed? After all, Franz Joseph I is now 84 years old, and has little time left. Other ministers and military generals of the Austro-Hungarian Empire also clamored. They all believed that the time had come for the Austro-Hungarian Empire to annex Serbia and dominate the Balkan Peninsula. What awaits them will be a brilliant victory. Friedrich, is the army ready? Franz Joseph I asked. Your Majesty, our 6 legions are ready for battle. Archduke Friedrich replied. As a large country with a population of more than 50 million, the Austro-Hungarian Empire can expand the total strength of the army to more than 1 million with a little mobilization. However, among these armies, there are very few troops with strong combat effectiveness. Among other things, the language problem alone was enough to collapse the officers of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Because there were many nationalities in the Austro-Hungarian Empire, their languages were also different. This often results in people who speak multiple languages in an army. This leads to the fact that officers often cannot understand what soldiers are saying, and soldiers cannot understand the orders of officers. Coupled with lax training, the will to fight is weak. It is simply impossible to expect such a force to have strong combat effectiveness. However, the rulers of the Austro-Hungarian Empire obviously did not think of this. In their view, Serbia is just a small country with a population of 3 million. Even if they were all soldiers, there were not as many troops as the fully mobilized Austro-Hungarian Empire. Under such circumstances, how could they be the opponents of the Austro-Hungarian Empire? Your Majesty, according to the battle plan we have formulated, if Russia does not go to war against the empire, then, out of the 6 legions of the Imperial Army, 3 will be dispatched to attack Serbia. 2 will defend Russia. The other will serve as a reserve. If Russia goes to war against the empire, then the Imperial Army will dispatch 2 legions to attack Serbia legions to guard against the Russians, and 1 as a reserve. Marshal Herzendorf reported. If the Russians attack us, can our army resist it? Prime Minister Mario Weber was a little worried. Although Russia was just defeated by the dwarf in the east a few years ago. However, the name of the Russian steamroller is not for nothing. Russia's military strength is indeed strong. However, we are not fighting alone. As long as Russia dares to attack us, Germany will send troops to help us. Marshal Herzendorf said. Germany? Their main enemy is on the Western Front. Foreign Minister Leopold von Berchtold-Baron said. Germany does not need to send the main force to the Eastern Front. It only needs a part of the troops to contain a considerable part of the Russians. Besides, our mobilization is still going on. Soon, we will have enough troops to deal with the Russians. Yes. Archduke Friedrich also said. Okay, everyone. Now that the army is ready and confident in future wars, then, we should trust the army. Believe that they can do it. Next, leave everything to the army. Empire, our destiny lies in this battle. May God bless the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Franz Joseph I said. God bless Austria-Hungary. Everyone shouted. Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph I had an extremely high reputation in the empire, and no one could object to what he decided. It can be said that Franz Joseph I was the pinnacle of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. With him, Austria-Hungary was a powerful country, one of the top powers in the world. Unfortunately, Franz Joseph I was too old to live much longer. If the Austro-Hungarian Empire is defeated this time, and there is no capable heir who can inherit the entire empire, the disintegration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire will be in sight. On July 28th, the Austro-Hungarian government officially declared war on Serbia on the grounds that Serbia rejected the request of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The World War officially kicked off because of the declaration of war by the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Facing the declaration of war by the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Serbia asked the Russian Empire for help on the one hand and mobilized on the other. The army was deployed on the border to prepare for the invasion of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. However, the strength gap between the two sides is really too big. Without the help of external forces, Serbia would not be an opponent of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at all. After declaring war on Serbia, the Austro-Hungarian army, which had been prepared for a long time, launched a massive attack on Serbia. Since it is unclear whether the Russian Empire will go to war against Austria-Hungary, therefore, the Austro-Hungarian Empire only sent 2 legions to participate in the attack in the early stage. But even so, it is not something Serbia can resist. The Russian Empire has always regarded Serbia as its younger brother and supported Serbia's expansion in the Balkan Peninsula. The Austro-Hungarian Empire dared to ignore the warnings of the Russian Empire and launch an attack on Serbia. Of course, Tsar Nicholas II could not accept it. Under the order of Tsar Nicholas II, the Russian Empire began a general mobilization. At the same time, troops began to move towards the border. France, as an ally of the Russian Empire, immediately began to mobilize troops. Germany is an ally of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and has promised to provide support to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Immediately after discovering the actions of the Russian Empire and France, a warning was issued. On July 31st, Germany presented an ultimatum to Russia and France, asking them to stop their general mobilization. If Russia uses the army to support Serbia, Germany will not hesitate to fight. However, both Russia and France rejected Germany's request and continued mobilization. On July 31st, Germany officially declared war on Russia. Russia then declared war on Germany. The scale of the war has further expanded. Chapter 172, Tit for Tat. August 1st, 1914, the German Army General Staff, Kaiser Wilhelm II and Crown Prince Qin Tian visited the General Staff to listen to the Army's combat deployment. Germany has declared war on Russia and is about to declare war on France. Therefore, the war is about to begin. The German army has begun full mobilization, and a large number of reservists are gathering. They will take battalions as units and go to designated areas for reorganization, forming infantry divisions one after another. With Germany's population and industry, there is no problem at all in mobilizing an army of more than 3 million. If Germany is a sophisticated war machine, then now, this war machine has begun to run at high speed. Moreover, an unbelievably powerful force will erupt. Generals, are the Imperial Army ready to fight? Are you ready to win the empire and win glory for you? William II looked at the generals of the Imperial Army. The entire meeting room can be said to be full of stars shining, and a large number of generals and lieutenant generals gathered here. The Major General is not even eligible to attend this meeting. Get ready. Fight for the empire and defeat the enemy. All the generals replied loudly. Everyone's face was full of excitement and excitement. Germany has been preparing for this war for a long time. Similarly, these generals have also prepared for a long time. They desperately hope to go to war so that they can obtain higher glory and the military merit needed for promotion. These generals are also very optimistic and believe that they will be able to win this war. Very well, the German Imperial Army is number 1 in the world. This time, we are going to teach those damned Russians and French a lesson, Wilhelm II said with satisfaction. He also seems to have seen the day when the German army defeated the Allied powers and became the world's hegemon. At that time, he will become the most powerful person in the world, bar none. Next, the Chief of the General Staff, Malki, began to introduce the Army's combat deployment. Your Majesty, according to the previous combat plan we formulated, the battle against Russia on the Eastern Front will initially be handed over to the 8th Army. However, the Russians are mobilizing rapidly. The Russian Standing Army is also gathering towards the border. Their offensive will start soon. Therefore, I suggest to further strengthen the strength of the 8th Army from the current 10 infantry divisions to 18 infantry divisions. In this case, plus the army of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, should be able to stop the Russian attack. Zyumoki said. No, the 8th Army does not need to be strengthened. With our strength, it is enough to resist the Russian attack. Use those 8 infantry divisions on the Western Front. Compared to the Eastern Front, The Western Front is more important. Qin Tian flatly refused. Although, it may be what everyone wants to strengthen the forces in their hands. However, for the sake of the overall situation, Qin Tian still refused. As Qin Tian said, the Western Front is the most important. If Germany fails to win a quick victory on the Western Front in this war may fall into a stalemate. At that time, all hopes will be pinned on the Navy. This situation will be very unfavorable. Qin Tian hoped that the army could open up the situation on the Western Front. In this case, Germany's chances of winning would be even greater. His Royal Highness, now is not the time to act impulsively. I have already made arrangements for the Western Front. Now, the situation on the Eastern Front is very critical. Once the Eastern Front cannot resist the Russian attack, we will not only lose East Prussia, but also the capital of our country will also be threatened by the Russians. In that case, our previous efforts will be in vain. Zhao Maoki looked angry, thinking that Qin Tian was deliberately making trouble. No, Your Excellency the Chief of Staff, this is not, because I'm full of confidence in the 8th Army. I believe that the 8th Army will be able to withstand the Russian attack. In addition to 10 infantry divisions, there is an armored division. Qin Tian was full of confidence. Little Maoki was very angry and wanted to say something more. However, it was stopped by William II. Oscar, are you serious? William II asked. Yes, father. There won't be any problems on the Eastern Front. The 8th Army will teach the Russians a lesson. There is absolutely no problem in gaining a month for the Western Front. Therefore, the limited troops should be devoted to the Western Front. Let's go to the frontline battlefield. More sufficient troops are needed there. Qin Tian said seriously. King William II nodded. Well, generals, we should trust His Royal Highness the Crown Prince. The 8th Army will definitely have no problem dealing with those poorly equipped Russians. Haha. Long live the 8th Army. The Russians are too weak. The generals all laughed. Seeing this, Zhao Maoki had no choice but to stop insisting. Subsequently, Zhao Maoki introduced the deployment on the Western Front. But Qin Tian frowned even more after hearing this. Little Moltke has revised the battle plan left by his predecessor, General Schlieffen, beyond recognition. In particular, the essence of the entire Schlieffen plan is undoubtedly to gather heavy troops on the right wing of the Western Front, bypass the French defense line, and launch an attack from the weak area of northern France. But now, Little Maoki has seriously weakened the right wing and strengthened the left wing and the center. In this way, it seems to be a little more secure. It will cause the right wing to have insufficient offensive power due to lack of troops, making them unable to complete the intended combat objectives. In another time and space, the German army missed the opportunity to win Paris. Because of this deployment time, the closest troops to Paris were only tens of kilometers away. As long as they launched another attack, they might be able to take Paris. Once the German army takes Paris, France may withdraw from the war. Perhaps, history will be rewritten because of this. In this time and space, Little Maoki still modified the Schlieffen plan. Although he was full of confidence, Qin Tian knew that with such a modification, the German army would not only be unable to win, but would even fall into the quagmire of war. Your Excellency, Chief of the General Staff, this seems to be different from General Schlieffen's plan. I remember that General Schlieffen said, when he passed away last year, that the battle must be fought, but the right wing must not be weakened. Qin Tian said again, once stood up and raised objections. Suddenly, Zhao Maoki's face turned black, as if it was the bottom of a pot. Qin Tian jumped out to accuse him again and again, still in front of so many army generals. This undoubtedly made him lose face. In addition, Zhao Maoki always believed that he was stronger than General Schlieffen, but now Qin Tian accused him of revising the Schlieffen plan. Obviously he did not take him seriously. Chapter 173, Naval Missions. His Royal Highness, the Schlieffen plan was formulated 10 years ago. The situation at that time was very different from the present. Therefore, the General Staff revised the Schlieffen plan according to the actual situation. After the revision, the plan is more suitable for the current situation. Zhao Maoki retorted. He can no longer remain silent on this issue. Otherwise, he would really lose all prestige. HMPH. Your Excellency, the Chief of the General Staff, the central point of Schlieffen's plan is that the right wing fights in areas favorable to the offensive, and its strength is sufficient to encircle Antwerp, Namur, and Paris. The left wing fights in areas favorable to the defensive, and its strength is sufficient. It is only limited to the ability to lure the enemy to go deep. But after the modification, the right wing is seriously insufficient, and it is not enough to break through the French defense. Once the attack fails, the consequences will be very serious. Qin Tian snorted coldly. Little Moltke, like William II, is also a headstrong and conceited person. Although, in Xiaomaoqi's plan, he inherited General Schlieffen's core idea of defending East and West. But in terms of specific plans, there is a huge difference. And these differences are very likely to lead to the failure of the plan. Of course, Little Maoqi does not allow others to question his plan, because it is a denial of his ability. His Royal Highness, the entire battle plan has been demonstrated in detail by the officers of the General Staff. Our plan will definitely succeed. Little Maoqi became a little angry. The generals who participated in this meeting can be described as an eye-opener. Although they already knew that the relationship between Qin Tian and Xiaomaoqi was very bad, they still didn't expect that it would be so bad. This is a battle meeting for the future war that concerns the fate of the German Empire, but the two quarreled tit for tat, which is completely embarrassing. Alright, Oscar. Your Excellency the Chief of Staff revised the Schlieffen plan with my consent. William II said. Qin Tian froze for a moment, not knowing what to say. The so-called birds of a feather flock together, and people are divided into groups. No wonder Wilhelm II and Little Moltke became very good friends. The two are like-minded. Qin Tian no longer expressed any hope for the army's success on the Western Front. He only hopes that the 8th Army can defeat the Russians as soon as possible on the Eastern Front and beat the Russians. In this case, he may be able to transfer the 8th Army to the Western Front as soon as possible to strengthen the attack on France and strive for success. Little Maoqi glanced at Qin Tian. His eyes were full of contempt and virtue. Like a rooster who has won a battle point, Little Maoqi divided the Western Front troops into 7 armies, which were the 1st Army of General Kluck, including 7 armies, 3 cavalry divisions and 3 national brigades, with a total strength of 320,000 legion. Including 6 armies, 2 cavalry divisions and 2 national brigades, with a total strength of 260,000. General Hausen's 3rd Army, including 4 armies and a national brigade, with a total strength of 180,000. Württemberg the Duke's 4th Army, including 5 armies and a national brigade, has a total strength of 180,000. General Dimlen's 5th Army, including 5 armies, 1 infantry division, 2 cavalry divisions and 5 national brigades, the total strength is 200,000. The 6th Army of Bavarian, General Ruprecht, including 5 armies, 3 cavalry divisions and 4 supplementary divisions, with a total strength of 200,000. The 7th Army of General Schillingen, including 3 armies, 1 infantry division, 2 supplementary divisions and 4 national brigades, with a total strength of 125,000 people. Throughout the Western Front, the German army has assembled more than 1.4 million people, which already accounts for more than 80% of the total strength of the German army. Of course, this is when Germany has only mobilized 50%. William II stubbornly believed that the German army only needed to mobilize 50% to defeat the enemy. Of course, another reason is to hope that as few people as possible will die in the war. Although Germany has a population of more than 60 million, there are only a few young and middle-aged people. Too many people will die, which will be very detrimental to the future development of Germany. Very. But, generals, the troops have been launched according to the battle plan. The troops' war will start soon. Once the order to attack is issued, I hope everyone can fight bravely and win the German Empire. Germany must victory. William II shouted. Germany will win. Everyone is full of confidence in the future war. That night, Marshal Earl Tirpitz, Minister of the Navy, visited Qin Tian. The war is about to begin, and the task of the Navy is also very heavy. However, Marshal Earl Tirpitz still hoped to hear Qin Tian's opinion. His Royal Highness, did you and Little Moltke quarrel at today's combat meeting? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. That self-righteous guy. He changed General Schlieffen's plan beyond recognition, and he still looks like he is sure of winning. I really don't know where he got his confidence, Qin Tian said angrily. As soon as today's combat meeting rang, Qin Tian couldn't help getting angry. Marshal Earl Tirpitz also frowned. It was the first time he saw Qin Tian like this. His Royal Highness, will the army fail in the next war? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. Once the army fails to succeed, this battle will be very difficult. Otherwise, Germany will be defeated. It's hard to say, but the situation is definitely not too optimistic. Even if we win, our losses will be very large. A miserable victory is definitely not what we want. Qin Tian shook his head. Thousands of tanks and other new weapons were also equipped with troops on the Western Front. However, whether these tanks can play a big role in the war, Qin Tian is not sure at all. After all, although the weapon factor is very important, in war, the most important thing is still people. What's more, the reliability of current tanks is very low. If it is a long-distance attack, it is estimated that no tank can drive to Paris. Your Highness, what should we do? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. Do your best. However, if the army is unable to win the victory, the task of the Navy will be very difficult. At that time, the Navy must find a way to defeat the British. Only in this way can we continue the war. Otherwise, once the coastline is blocked and the sea trade is cut off, we will collapse soon, Qin Tian said. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded with a serious expression, and he also felt how great the responsibility on his shoulders was. Chapter 174, Go to the front line. Your Excellency, Marshal, are our submarine forces and battle cruisers ready? Qin Tian asked. Everything is ready. After the Austro-Hungarian Empire declared war on Serbia, pre-war preparations began, said Marshal Count Tirpitz. As the head of the German Navy, Marshal Earl Tirpitz also had a keen sense of politics. He also realized that the war was about to begin. Whether the German Navy can defeat a powerful enemy depends on this time. Qin Tian nodded. Tomorrow night, let our submarine and battle cruiser formation go to sea. The war is about to begin. The warships we spent huge sums of money must be put to use. Your Highness, the British have not made a clear statement yet. Will they declare war on us immediately? Marshal Earl Tirpitz asked. Although, everyone knows that Britain and Germany will inevitably have a war. However, judging from the current situation, Britain is still debating whether to join the war. Therefore, it seems a bit premature to send the fleet to sea now. Qin Tian shook his head. I can guarantee that within 3 days at most, the British will declare war on us. Marshal Earl Tirpitz couldn't believe it. Why is Qin Tian so sure? Don't forget, the most important part of the Western Front plan is to use Belgium to attack northern France. Will the Belgians agree to our request? It is almost impossible. Once our army enters Belgium, the British will certainly not sit idly by. The British have always implemented a continental balance of power strategy. They will not watch Belgium fall and France face a crisis. Therefore, it will be inevitable for the British to join the war soon. Qin Tian analyzed. Well, from this point of view, we do have to make preparations in advance. Tomorrow night, the submarine force and the battle cruiser formation will go to sea. Once the British declare war on us, we will immediately launch an attack on their sea transportation lines, completely strangle them, said Marshal Earl Tirpitz. In order to strangle the British sea transportation line, the German Navy specially built hundreds of submarines. And, after the war broke out, an order was again placed to the shipyard to build 100 submarines. In terms of battle cruisers, although the Mackensen-class battle cruisers have not yet entered service, the Blücher-class battle cruisers, the Moltke-class battle cruisers and the Der Flieger-class battle cruisers are more powerful than the first, and they have an overwhelming advantage against the battle cruisers of the British Navy. Qin Tian could predict that under the joint strangulation of the submarines and battle cruisers of the German Navy, the British sea transportation line would definitely suffer a devastating blow. At that time, the situation in the UK will be very bad. In order to protect its own sea transportation lines, the British Navy had to send more warships to escort. But whether it is a cruiser or a battle cruiser, it will not be an opponent of the battle cruiser of the German Navy, and it will only cause them to pay greater losses. Even, it will force the British Navy and the German Navy to engage in a decisive battle ahead of schedule. How is the construction progress of our Bavaria-class battleships and Mackensen-class battle cruisers? Will they be able to enter service in the first half of next year? Qin Tian asked. Your Highness, the construction period has been accelerated now. There should be no problem in serving in the first half of next year. Marshal Earl Tirpitz nodded. In this case, the decisive battle between us and the British Navy will be in the first half of next year. I believe that the British, who are driven to the point of going crazy, will definitely not wait to have a decisive battle with us. Qin Tian smiled. Said. Marshal Earl Tirpitz also laughed. Once the British maritime transportation line is hit, it will undoubtedly be fatal to the British. As long as the British don't want to be hanged bit by Germany, they can only put all their eggs in one basket. At that time, the number of capital ships of the German Navy may not take advantage of it. But in terms of quality, the German Navy can definitely take advantage. At that time, the possibility of the German Navy winning will be very high. Once the German Navy wins, Britain is completely finished. Early the next morning, Qin Tian changed into a military uniform. Germany has declared war on Russia, so Qin Tian must rush to the front line as soon as possible. It is estimated that the Russian troops attacking East Prussia are already on their way. Although, Qin Tian has great confidence in the 8th Army, but this time, they have to face enemies that are twice or even 3 times their size. Therefore, Qin Tian still had to deal with it carefully. If the 8th Army fails to withstand the Russian attack, it will be a fatal blow to Germany. At the same time, he might not have the face to continue to rely on the position of Crown Prince. Therefore, for the benefit of the Empire, but also for his own benefit, Qin Tian must win in the next war. Qin Tian went to the office of Wilhelm II and bid farewell to Wilhelm II. Father, I'm going to the 8th Army soon. I assure you, the 8th Army will definitely hold off the Russian attack and fight for the Western Front for a month or even longer. Qin Tian said with a look on his face. Said firmly. William II looked at his son in military uniform and nodded in satisfaction. Oscar, you can go at ease. Don't worry about family matters. I know that you are worried about the war on the Western Front. But you have to believe that the Empire, the army, is invincible. The French are our opponents, and this time, we can also defeat them. William II seemed full of confidence, so Qin Tian naturally couldn't pour cold water on him anymore. The only thing he can do is to find a way to win for Germany when the situation on the Western Front cannot be opened. Yes, father. Qin Tian didn't say much. Go, Oscar. I believe you will win. William II said. Germany will win. After Qin Tian finished speaking, he turned and left. Qin Tian then returned home and bid farewell to his wife and children. Gundlin's eyes were red, and his 3-year-old son seemed to realize something and began to scream. Gundlin, don't worry, I will return safely. Qin Tian said with a smile. Well, Oscar, I'll wait for your return. Gundlin nodded. She is a very well-behaved wife. Even if she was worried, she would not stop Qin Tian, because she knows she can't stop it. Qin Tian kissed Gundlin and his son, and then, under the protection of the guards, went to the train station, took a special train, headed for Königsberg, and headed to the front line, ready to fight. Chapter 175, Treating Belgium. On August 2nd, the Schlieffen Plan, carefully planned by the German army, has begun to be implemented. The 7 armies on the Western Front have already begun to gather at the predetermined positions. The core intention of the Schlieffen Plan is to launch a blitzkrieg in order to avoid falling into a long 2-front battle. First, gather heavy troops on the Western Front and defeat France. Then use the convenient railway to transport the army to the Eastern Front, defeat Russia, and win the war. To put it bluntly, it is a time difference. Taking Russia's low mobilization ability as an entry point, defeat France before Russia completes the mobilization and secure the victory. If it fails to achieve its strategic goals, once it is caught in a 2-front battle, it may be very difficult for Germany to win again. In the Schlieffen Plan, Belgium is an unavoidable hurdle. France has always regarded Germany as its old enemy and deployed heavy troops on the French-German border. Germany had to go through Belgium if it wanted to bypass the solid French defenses and the rugged Ardennes. At the same time, although Belgium is a small country, it has developed industries and excellent transportation facilities such as railways and roads. The German army can use these infrastructures to quickly mobilize troops. Therefore, Germany hopes that the Kingdom of Belgium can take the initiative to open the country, so that the German army can borrow Belgium and launch an attack directly from northern France. Of course, it doesn't matter if the Kingdom of Belgium disagrees. The powerful German army will allow them to agree to it willingly, even though the Kingdom of Belgium is a neutral country recognized by European countries. However, in order to win, Germany obviously will not be tied down. For the Germans, it is absolutely impossible for the plan to go wrong after preparing for so long. Everything starts with winning. When Imperial Crown Prince Qin Tian left Berlin, Kaiser Wilhelm II summoned Prime Minister Bernhard von Bülow and Foreign Minister von Kidron-Wachter. Your Excellency Prime Minister, Your Excellency the Minister of Foreign Affairs. The army is gathering, and it is estimated that within 48 hours, the final assembly will be completed, and the attack will be completed. Therefore, we need to let the Belgians open the country as soon as possible and let our army pass. William II said, Your Majesty, I will immediately ask the ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium to issue an ultimatum to the Belgians. However, the possibility of the Belgians accepting it is unlikely. Von Kidron-Wachter said. William II nodded. He also knew that this was almost impossible. Although the Kingdom of Belgium is a small country, it has a lot of backbone. In order to maintain their independence, they have spent huge sums of money to build defense lines on the border to guard against any potential enemies. Of course, the defense line was mainly built on the border between the Kingdom of Belgium and Germany. As for France, it is obviously not as threatening as Germany. This approach of the Kingdom of Belgium also made Germany very dissatisfied for a time. It's just that the Kingdom of Belgium has a close relationship with the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom has even promised to guarantee the security and independence of the Kingdom of Belgium. Therefore, even in the face of Germany, the Kingdom of Belgium can stand upright. Of course, the Belgians will soon find out. Their backbone and strength are simply not proportional. For a small country with a total population of just over 7 million, facing Germany, which has the most powerful army in the world, is really too powerless. No matter what, give the Belgians a chance to choose. If they don't want the country to be destroyed, then follow our advice and let our army use it. Or even join the Allies and become allies of the Empire, and it's okay to share the victory together. But if they are stubborn and expect the British to guarantee their safety, it would be foolish. The powerful army of the Empire will crush them to pieces. Prime Minister Bülow said, Well, let's do this. The opportunity has been given to the Belgians. It depends on how they choose. I hope the Belgians can be more sensible. William II looked pitiful, as if there was no reason for the imminent invasion of Germany. Belgium felt a little ashamed. For heroes like them, winning the final victory is the most important thing. On the morning of August 2nd, King Albert I of Belgium convened the ministers and generals of the country to discuss the current situation. The massing of German troops on the border undoubtedly posed a huge threat to the Kingdom of Belgium. Albert I was worried, for fear that the Germans would march westward and attack them. After all, compared to the powerful German Empire, the Kingdom of Belgium is too weak. So weak that they are powerless against the German Empire. Gentlemen, the Germans have deployed a large army on the border. But will they attack us? Albert I asked. Your Majesty, we are a neutral country. The Germans shouldn't attack us, right? Besides, their enemy is the French, not us. Foreign Minister Coleman said. HMPH. The Germans don't care whether we are a neutral country or not. All they care about is victory. Prime Minister Brockwell snorted coldly. He has always maintained a high degree of vigilance against Germany's wolf ambitions. Generals, if the Germans launch an attack, can our defense line on the border withstand their attack? Albert I looked at the military general. Your Majesty, the Liege fortress has been completed. We only need to send an army to the Liege fortress to ensure our safety. It is impossible for the Germans to break through our heavily defended Liege fortress. Army, the minister answered confidently. Liege fortress is the only way for the German army to attack Belgium, so Belgium decided to build a strong fortress there in order to prevent a sudden German invasion. Now, the fortress finally came in handy. But the Belgians did not expect that the Liege fortress had been completed for 20 years. It was originally designed to withstand the shelling of 210mm heavy artillery, so the fort's fortifications are permanent reinforced concrete fortifications with a thickness of 2.5 to 3 meters. But now, with the development of science and technology, the largest caliber of heavy artillery that can be used on land is no longer 210mm. This makes the Liege fortress very flawed. Your Majesty, the German ambassador seeks an audience. The Germans are coming. The Belgian senior officials present all exclaimed. Albert I's expression was not natural either. But he let the German ambassador in anyway. Your Majesty, I'm here with the goodwill of the German Empire. The Empire hopes that the Kingdom of Belgium can withdraw its troops on the border and allow the German army to pass through the territory of the Kingdom of Belgium guarantees that it will never invade the Kingdom of Belgium's safety and other interests. The German ambassador raised his head and said proudly, "End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video."